Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be reading some family drama stories for you to relax, sleep, study, or just as some background noise. If you enjoy, I would appreciate if you could subscribe and like the video. And now let's get started. Story 1. I just found out my sister has been living a double life, and our entire family has been funding it without knowing. I'm still in shock and don't know what to do. I'm 32 years old and my sister Emma is 28. Growing up, we were close despite our 4-year age gap. Emma was always the golden child, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. She was beautiful, charismatic, and had this way of making everyone around her feel special. I never resented her for it, because she genuinely seemed like a good person who deserved all the love she got. When Emma was 21, she told us she got accepted into a prestigious graduate program across the country. Our parents were thrilled. The program was expensive, really expensive, but they didn't hesitate to help her out. They took out a second mortgage on their house to cover her tuition and living expenses. I had already graduated and was working, so I chipped in what I could to help with her rent and groceries. We all wanted to support her dreams. For the past 7 years, Emma has been supposedly working toward her doctorate in environmental science. She would come home for holidays and tell us all about her research, her professors, and her busy schedule. She seemed stressed, but happy. We would video call occasionally, and she always had a good excuse for why we couldn't visit her. The program was demanding, she was always in the lab, her apartment was too small for visitors, and so on. We believed her because why wouldn't we? 2 months ago, I got a job opportunity in the city, where Emma supposedly lived. I was excited because it meant I could finally be closer to my sister. I didn't tell her right away, because I wanted to surprise her. I flew out for the final interview and decided to stop by her apartment afterward. I had her address from all the care packages we'd sent over the years. When I got to the address, it was a UPS store. I stood there for 10 minutes just staring at the mailbox number that matched her apartment number, trying to make sense of it. I called her immediately. She didn't answer. I called again and again. Finally, I left a voicemail asking her to call me back, that I was in her city and wanted to see her. She called back 3 hours later, sounding panicked. She said she had moved a few months ago and forgot to update everyone with her new address. She claimed she was out of town for a conference and wouldn't be back for a week. Something in her voice felt off, but I wanted to believe her. I asked for her new address, and she said she'd text it to me later. She never did. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I spent the next few days doing something I never thought I would do. I hired a private investigator. I know it sounds extreme, but 7 years of my parents' money, my money, and my parents' home equity was on the line. I needed to know the truth. The investigator found Emma in less than a week. She wasn't in graduate school. She hadn't been for 6 years. She had dropped out after her first year but never told anyone. Instead, she had been working as a bartender at a high-end nightclub. But that wasn't even the worst part. Emma was married. She had gotten married 4 years ago to a guy named Marcus, and they had a 3-year-old daughter together. A daughter. I'm an aunt, and I never knew. Our parents are grandparents, and they have no idea. The investigator sent me photos, pictures of Emma, Marcus, and this beautiful little girl at the park, at birthday parties, living a completely normal family life, while we all thought she was buried in research papers. I confronted her over the phone. At first, she denied everything. Then she tried to downplay it. Finally, when I told her I had proof, she broke down. She admitted that she had dropped out of the program because she hated it. She had only applied because our parents had always pushed her toward prestigious careers. She met Marcus shortly after dropping out, and they fell in love. She got pregnant, they got married, and she was too afraid to tell anyone because she didn't want to disappoint our family. Instead of coming clean, she created this elaborate lie. Every semester, She would make up stories about her classes and research. The money we sent her, she used some for her actual living expenses, but saved a lot of it. She and Marcus bought a small house in the suburbs with the money that was supposed to go toward her education. She said she always planned to pay everyone back, but could never figure out how without revealing the truth. I asked her how she could do this to our parents, who had sacrificed so much. She cried and said she knew it was wrong, that she thought about confessing every single day, but the longer the lie went on, the harder it became to tell the truth. She begged me not to tell our parents, said it would destroy them. She promised she would tell them herself, that she just needed time to figure out how. I told her she had 1 week. 1 week to come clean to our parents, or I would do it for her. She agreed. That week came and went. She called our parents and told them she was swamped with work and couldn't talk much. No confession. I gave her another week. Same thing. She's stalling, and I know she's hoping I'll either forget about it or decide it's not worth the fallout. But I can't let this go. Our parents are 63 and 65 years old. They're still working because they're paying off that second mortgage. My dad has health issues and should have retired by now, but he can't afford to. They've been living frugally, skipping vacations and putting off home repairs because every extra dollar goes toward Emma's supposed education. And it's all been for nothing. She's been living in a house they unknowingly bought for her, while they sacrificed their own comfort and security. I'm also angry at myself. I gave her money too. Not as much as our parents, but over 7 years it adds up. I had to put off buying my own place, because I was helping with her rent that didn't exist. I delayed my own life to help support what I thought was her future, and it was all a lie. The thing that hurts the most is the niece I never got to know. I love kids. I would have been the best aunt to that little girl. I would have visited, sent presents, and video called to read her bedtime stories. But Emma decided I didn't deserve to be part of that. She decided our parents didn't deserve to be grandparents to their only grandchild. She stole that from all of us. Part of me understands her initial fear. I get that she was young and scared and didn't know how to tell everyone she had changed her mind about school. But 6 years? 6 years of lying, of taking money under false pretenses, of inventing an entire fake life. That's not fear. That's calculated deception. That's fraud against her own family. I've been losing sleep over this. I keep going back and forth on what to do. If I tell my parents, it will devastate them. My mom will be heartbroken that Emma felt she couldn't tell her the truth. My dad will be furious about the money. Their relationship with Emma might never recover. But if I don't tell them, I'm complicit in the lie. I'm helping Emma continue to deceive them and take their money. There's also my relationship with Emma to consider. If I expose her, she'll probably never forgive me. We'll lose whatever bond we had left. The family will fracture. Holidays will become tense and awkward, if we even have them together anymore. But how can I look at her the same way after this? How can I sit at Christmas dinner knowing what I know and pretend everything is fine? I talked to my husband about it. He thinks I should tell our parents immediately. He says they deserve to know where their money has been going, and that they have a right to meet their granddaughter. He also pointed out that Emma has had multiple chances to come clean, and hasn't taken any of them. She's not going to confess on her own. My best friend thinks I should stay out of it. She says it's between Emma and our parents, and inserting myself will only make me the villain in Emma's eyes. She argues that eventually the truth will come out on its own, and when it does, at least I won't be the one who dropped the bomb. She thinks I should tell Emma one final time that she needs to tell the truth, and then wash my hands of it. But I don't think I can do that. Every day that passes, our parents spend money they don't have on a lie. Every day, that little girl grows up without knowing her grandparents and her aunt. Every day, the lie gets bigger and harder to untangle. I decided I need to see Emma in person before making my final decision. I flew out last weekend without telling her I was coming. I went to her house, the one bought with our family's money. It's a nice place, a cute 2-story with a small yard. There was a swing set in the back, and toys scattered on the porch. I sat in my rental car across the street for an hour, watching. I saw Emma come out with her daughter. The little girl, my niece, was wearing a princess dress and rain boots. Emma looked happy, relaxed in a way I'd never seen her. They got into a modest sedan and drove away, probably to run errands or go to the park. They looked like any normal mother and daughter, and it made me angry. She gets to have this life, this happiness, built on lies and our family's sacrifice. I didn't knock on the door. I didn't confront her again. I just drove back to the airport and went home. But now I know I have to tell our parents. I can't keep this secret. It's eating me alive, and they deserve to know the truth. They deserve to decide for themselves whether they want a relationship with Emma after this, whether they want to meet their granddaughter, and whether they want to pursue getting their money back. Tomorrow, I'm driving to my parents' house to tell them everything. I'm bringing the investigators' report, the photos, all of it. I've written down what I want to say because I know I'll get emotional. I'm going to tell them that I love them, that I'm sorry I didn't find out sooner, and that whatever they decide to do next, I'll support them. I know this will change our family forever. There's no going back from this. But I also know that the truth matters more than keeping the peace. Emma made her choices. She chose to lie, to take money she didn't need for what she claimed it was for, and to deprive our parents of knowing their grandchild. Now she has to face the consequences of those choices. I just hope our family can survive this. I hope that somehow, years from now, we can rebuild some kind of relationship. But right now, I'm angry and hurt and disappointed in someone I looked up to my entire life. The sister I thought I knew doesn't exist. She's a stranger who looks like Emma, but acts like someone I've never met. I don't know what I expect from posting this. Maybe I just needed to write it all out before tomorrow. Maybe I needed to hear from people who aren't emotionally involved. Or maybe I just needed to admit to myself that I'm scared. I'm scared of what tomorrow will bring, how my parents will react, and what our family will look like on the other side of this conversation. But it has to be done. The truth always comes out eventually, and it's better that it comes from me, someone who loves them, than from some random circumstance that makes it even worse. They deserve honesty, even if it hurts. They deserve to know that their daughter isn't who they think she is, and that they have a granddaughter they've never met. They deserve the chance to decide what comes next. So, tomorrow, I tell them everything, and then we all have to figure out how to move forward from here. Update. I told my parents yesterday. I'm still processing everything that happened, but I wanted to share how it went down because the response was not what I expected at all. I arrived at their house around 10 in the morning. My mom was in the kitchen making coffee, and my dad was reading the newspaper in the living room, the same routine they've had for 30 years. Seeing them in their normal Saturday morning routine made what I was about to do feel even worse. I was about to shatter their peaceful morning and possibly their entire worldview of their daughter. I asked them to sit down because I had something important to tell them. My mom immediately looked worried. She asked if I was sick, if something had happened to my husband, if I was getting divorced. I assured her it wasn't about me. That somehow made her more nervous. She sat down on the couch next to my dad and grabbed his hand. They looked so small and vulnerable in that moment. I told them everything. I started from the beginning, from my job interview in Emma's supposed city, to finding the UPS store, to hiring the private investigator. I showed them the photos of Emma with Marcus and their daughter. I showed them the investigator's report that confirmed Emma had dropped out of graduate school 6 years ago. I watched their faces as the reality sank in. My mom's reaction surprised me. She didn't cry right away. She just stared at the photos of her granddaughter with this expression I couldn't quite read. She picked up the picture of the little girl on the swing set and traced her finger over the child's face. Then she asked me what her name was. I realized I didn't know. The investigator's report just referred to her as the daughter, age 3. We didn't even know our own granddaughter's name. My dad's reaction was more what I expected. His face turned red, and I could see the vein in his temple throbbing. He stood up and started pacing. He was furious about the money, about the sacrifice, about the second mortgage they're still paying off. He said some things about Emma that I'd never heard him say about anyone, let alone his own daughter. He called her a liar, a thief, a con artist. My mom didn't correct him. After the initial shock wore off, we spent 3 hours talking about what to do next. My dad wanted to call Emma immediately and demand she return every cent. He talked about lawyers and fraud charges. My mom was quieter, but I could tell she was hurt in a way that went deeper than anger. She kept looking at the photos and asking questions. How long have they been married? Where do they live? Does the little girl look like Emma did at that age? Why didn't Emma think she could tell us? That last question hung in the air. Why didn't Emma feel safe telling the truth? My mom started second-guessing herself, wondering if she had been too pushy about Emma's education, if she had made Emma feel like love was conditional on success. My dad dismissed this, said that lots of parents have expectations, and their kids don't respond by committing fraud, but I could see my mom wasn't convinced. She was already taking on blame that wasn't necessarily hers to carry. We decided that I would contact Emma and tell her that our parents knew everything. We would give her 24 hours to call them and explain herself. If she didn't, my dad was serious about pursuing legal action. I didn't think he'd actually do it, sue his own daughter, but he was angry enough in that moment that it seemed possible. I called Emma that evening. She knew immediately why I was calling. She started crying before I even said anything. I told her that our parents knew, that they'd seen the photos, and that she had one day to call them. She asked me how they reacted. I told her the truth. Dad was furious and talking about lawyers. Mom was hurt and wanted to understand why Emma felt she couldn't tell the truth. Emma was quiet for a long time. Then she said she'd call them in the morning and hung up. She didn't call in the morning. She showed up at their house instead. I wasn't there for this part, but my mom called me afterwards to tell me what happened. Emma arrived at 8 in the morning with Marcus and their daughter. She brought her family to meet our family, finally, after all these years of lies. According to my mom, Emma was a mess. She'd clearly been crying all night. The little girl's name is Sophie, and she's apparently very shy around strangers. She hid behind her dad's legs the whole time. Marcus seemed uncomfortable but determined to be there to support Emma. Emma apologized. She explained everything from the beginning. She said she'd applied to the graduate program because our parents seemed so excited about the possibility, and she didn't want to disappoint them. But once she got there, she realized she hated it. She hated the research, hated the competitive environment, hated the person she was becoming in pursuit of something she didn't even want. She dropped out after the first year and got the bartending job to support herself because she was too ashamed to come home. She met Marcus at the bar where she worked. He was a customer who came in regularly after work. They started dating, fell in love, and she got pregnant. They decided to get married and keep the baby. Emma said she wanted to tell our parents so many times, especially when Sophie was born. But she'd been lying for so long that she didn't know how to stop. Every month that passed made it harder. She'd think about confessing, but then she'd remember the sacrifices our parents were making, the money they were sending, and she'd lose her courage. The money they sent her, she put most of it in a savings account. She and Marcus used some for the down payment on their house, but she'd been saving the rest, supposedly to pay everyone back when she finally came clean. She showed my mom the bank statements. There was almost $70,000 in the account. Not enough to cover everything our parents had paid, but a significant amount. She wanted them to have it back. All of it, immediately. My dad's anger apparently softened a bit when he met Sophie. My mom said he tried to stay mad, but this little 3-year-old girl looked up at him with Emma's eyes and called him Grandpa without even knowing he was her grandfather, just because Emma had told her that's who he was. He picked her up, and she wrapped her little arms around his neck, and my mom said she saw tears in his eyes. But my dad was still hurt. He told Emma that the money wasn't the point. The point was the trust, the deception, the years of lies. He said he didn't know if he could forgive her, and he didn't know if their relationship could recover from this. Emma understood. She didn't try to make excuses or minimize what she'd done. She just said she was sorry over and over again. My mom's reaction was different. She was hurt, yes, but she also seemed almost relieved. Relieved that Emma wasn't actually stressed and overworked in some demanding program. Relieved that Emma had found love and had a family. Relieved that there was a granddaughter she could get to know. She held Sophie and cried, not from sadness but from some complicated mix of emotions I don't think any of us fully understood. They talked for hours. Marcus mostly stayed quiet, letting Emma take the lead, but he did speak up a few times to defend her. He said Emma was a good mother, a good wife, and that she'd been tortured by the lie. He said she'd have nightmares about it, that she'd wake up in a panic thinking about how to tell the truth. He said he'd encouraged her to come clean many times, but it wasn't his family, so he couldn't force her. I don't know if that made my parents feel better or worse. By the time Emma left, there was no resolution. My parents needed time to process everything. Emma understood and said she'd give them whatever space they needed. She left the bank account information and said the money was theirs whenever they wanted it. She also left her real address and her phone number, her actual contact information for the first time in 7 years. That was 3 days ago. Since then, my parents have been on an emotional roller coaster. My dad oscillates between anger and sadness. He'll be furious one moment, talking about how betrayed he feels, and then the next moment he's looking at pictures of Sophie on his phone that my mom took when Emma visited. He's torn between his hurt and his love for his daughter, and the existence of a granddaughter he never knew about complicates everything. My mom has been researching things to do with 3-year-olds. She's been looking at toys online and asking me what kinds of books kids that age like. She's already planning for a future relationship with Sophie, even though she and Emma haven't really talked since that morning meeting. I think my mom has decided she's going to forgive Emma. Maybe already has, but she's waiting for my dad to catch up emotionally. As for me, I'm still processing my own feelings. I'm glad the truth is out. I'm glad our parents know and can make their own decisions about how to move forward, but I'm also dealing with my own sense of betrayal. Emma lied to me too. She took my money too. She kept a niece from me for 3 years. I'm supposed to just get over that? I talked to Emma yesterday. She called to thank me for not completely destroying her relationship with our parents, which is a weird thing to be thanked for. I told her I was still angry, that I didn't know if we could go back to how things were. She said she understood, that she didn't expect forgiveness from anyone. She said she just wanted the chance to try to make things right, however long that took. She also told me about Sophie. She said Sophie loves dinosaurs and can name at least 20 different species. She's obsessed with the color purple and insists on wearing her purple dress at least 3 times a week. She's starting preschool in the fall and is nervous about it. Emma talked about her daughter with so much love and pride, and I felt this weird mix of emotions. I was angry that I didn't get to watch Sophie grow up, but also happy that Emma clearly loves being a mother. Emma asked if I wanted to meet Sophie properly, not just see her in photos. She suggested we could get coffee, and she'd bring Sophie to a park nearby. I told her I needed to think about it. I'm not ready yet. I don't know if I can sit in a park and play with my niece like everything is normal, when nothing about this situation is normal. My husband thinks I'm being too hard on Emma. He says people make mistakes, that Emma was young and scared, and the lie got away from her. He thinks I should meet Sophie and start building a relationship with her, because she's innocent in all this. He's not wrong, but he also wasn't the one who spent years sacrificing to help someone who was lying to him. My parents are planning to meet with Emma again next week. My mom wants to take Sophie to the zoo. My dad is hesitant, but agrees it's not Sophie's fault that her mother lied, and she deserves to know her grandparents. They still haven't decided what to do about the money. My dad wants to take it back. All of it. As a matter of principle. My mom thinks they should put it in a trust for Sophie's education, since that's what the money was supposed to be for in the first place. Just not Emma's education. I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know if there is a right answer. This whole situation is messy and complicated, and there are no good guys or bad guys. Just a family trying to figure out how to heal from a massive betrayal. What I do know is that our family will never be the same. The innocence is gone. The implicit trust we had in each other is broken. Emma can apologize all she wants and try to make amends, but that doesn't erase 7 years of lies. It doesn't give us back the time we lost with Sophie. It doesn't undo the financial strain on our parents. But maybe, eventually, we can build something new. Not the family we were, but something different. A family that's been through fire and survived. A family that knows each other's flaws and failures and chooses to love each other anyway. I don't know if I'm there yet. I don't know if any of us are. But I think we're all willing to try. And maybe that's enough for now. I'll probably update again when I know more about what's going to happen. For now, we're all just taking it one day at a time, trying to figure out how to be a family again after everything that's happened. It's hard and messy and painful, but it's also real in a way our family dynamic hasn't been in years. Maybe that counts for something. Story 2. My parents sold the house I grew up in to fund my brother's wedding without telling me, and now I'm finding out they expected me to take them in. I'm 34 years old, married with 2 kids, and I just found out my parents are essentially homeless because they sold their house to pay for my younger brother's wedding. I didn't even know the house was for sale until it was already sold. Now they're acting like I'm the villain for not immediately offering to let them move in with us. Let me back up and explain the whole situation, because it's complicated, and honestly kind of insane. My brother Tyler is 28, and he's always been the favorite child. I don't say this with bitterness. It's just a fact. He was the surprise baby who came along when I was 6, and from the moment he was born, everything revolved around him. My parents were older when they had him. My mom was 39 and my dad was 42, so I think they saw him as their last chance at parenting and went all in. Growing up, Tyler got everything he wanted. New gaming systems, expensive sports equipment, a car for his 16th birthday. Meanwhile, I had to work part-time through high school to afford my own car. When it came time for college, they paid for Tyler's entire tuition at a private university. I had gone to community college and then transferred to a state school, taking out loans to cover what my partial scholarship didn't. They said they were in a better financial position by the time Tyler went to college, which I guess was true, but it still stung. I moved out at 22, got married at 26, and built a life for myself. My husband and I both have good jobs. We bought a modest house in the suburbs, and we have 2 kids, ages 5 and 3. We're comfortable but not wealthy. We budget carefully and save for our kids' futures. My parents would visit occasionally, but we weren't super close. I'd always felt like the practice child, the rough draft, while Tyler was the final polished version they actually cared about. Tyler got engaged last year to his girlfriend Meredith. She comes from money, like serious money. Her parents own some kind of investment firm, and they live in a mansion. From what I gathered, Meredith is used to a certain lifestyle. When they got engaged, my parents were thrilled. They kept talking about how Tyler was marrying up and how this was going to be so good for him. The wedding planning started, and apparently it became a nightmare. Meredith wanted a huge, extravagant wedding. She had a Pinterest board with thousands of pins. She wanted it at an exclusive venue, designer dress, famous caterer, live band, the works. The problem was that Meredith's parents had this weird philosophy about weddings. They believed the groom's family should pay for the wedding as a show of the groom's ability to provide. It's some old-fashioned tradition from Meredith's grandmother's culture or something. Tyler and Meredith could have paid for a reasonable wedding themselves. Tyler has a decent job in marketing, and Meredith works in her family's business. But Meredith didn't want a reasonable wedding. She wanted a fairy tale, and she convinced Tyler that this was their one chance to have the wedding of their dreams. Tyler went to our parents for help. Now, my parents are not wealthy people. My dad worked as an electrician, and my mom was a teacher. They're both retired now, living on Social Security and modest pensions. They own their house outright. It's a small, 3-bedroom ranch they bought in the 80s. Nothing fancy, but it was paid off. That house was supposed to be their security in retirement. Tyler told them the wedding would cost around $150,000. I heard this number later and nearly choked. Who spends that much on a wedding? But apparently that's what Meredith wanted, and Tyler was determined to make her happy. He asked our parents to help with funding. My parents didn't have that kind of cash sitting around. Their retirement savings were modest, meant to supplement their pensions and cover emergencies. But Tyler is their golden child, and he was getting married to a woman from a wealthy family. I think they saw it as an investment in his future. They convinced themselves that helping with this wedding would cement Tyler's place in this rich family, and he'd be set for life. So, they made a decision. They decided to sell the house. Their plan was to sell it, give Tyler the money for the wedding, and then find a small apartment to rent with what was left. They thought they could downsize, and it would all work out fine. They didn't tell me any of this was happening. The house sold fast. It was in a good school district, and the market was hot. They got $280,000 for it. After paying off some minor debts and covering selling costs, they had about $260,000 left. They gave Tyler $150,000 for the wedding. They kept $110,000 for themselves, figuring that would cover rent for years and still leave some cushion. The wedding happened 2 months ago. I was invited, of course. It was absolutely over the top. Ice sculptures, elaborate floral arrangements, a 12-piece band, premium open bar, and a menu that read like a Michelin star restaurant. Meredith looked like a princess in a dress that probably cost more than my first car. It was beautiful, sure, but all I could think about was how much money was being spent on one single day. I didn't know at that point that my parents had funded it. I assumed Meredith's family had paid, despite their weird tradition, or that Tyler and Meredith had saved up. My parents seemed happy, and didn't mention anything about financial stress. After the wedding, Tyler and Meredith went on an elaborate honeymoon to the Maldives. Everything seemed fine. Then 3 weeks ago, my mom called me crying. She said they needed to talk to me about something important. I went over to their house the next day. Except when I got to the address, it wasn't their house. It was a small apartment complex on the other side of town. I was confused and called my mom. She gave me the apartment number. When I walked in, I barely recognized any of the furniture. The apartment was tiny, maybe 600 square feet, 1 bedroom. Most of their stuff was in storage, they said, because it didn't fit. My mom looked exhausted, and my dad looked defeated. That's when they told me everything. They explained about selling the house to fund Tyler's wedding. They told me about their plan to rent an apartment. Then they told me where it all went wrong. Apparently, they didn't factor in how expensive rent had become. They also didn't consider that landlords often want proof of income beyond Social Security, and their pensions weren't quite enough to meet the income requirements for nicer places. They ended up in this cheap apartment in a not great area because it was all they qualified for. But the real kicker was that the apartment had problems. The heat barely worked, there were plumbing issues, and they were pretty sure there was mold. My dad's health had been declining, and the mold was making it worse. My mom was scared and stressed. They'd been living there for 6 weeks, and had already spent a chunk of their remaining money on doctor's visits and trying to fix issues the landlord wouldn't address. Then my mom said the thing that made my blood run cold. She said they couldn't stay in the apartment. It was making my dad too sick. They needed to find somewhere else to live. And then she looked at me with these hopeful eyes and said they'd been thinking that maybe they could stay with us for a while, just until they figured things out. I sat there in stunned silence. They sold their house, their security, to fund my brother's ridiculously expensive wedding, and now they wanted to move into my house because their plan had fallen apart. I asked why they didn't ask Tyler for help. They said Tyler and Meredith were just starting their lives together and had just bought a condo. They didn't want to burden them. I lost it. I asked them how they could possibly think that giving Tyler $150,000 for a party was more important than having a safe place to live. I asked them why they didn't talk to me before making such a huge decision. I asked them why I was supposed to fix their mistake when they'd never supported me the way they'd supported Tyler. My mom started crying harder. She said they thought they were doing the right thing for Tyler's future. She said they didn't tell me because they knew I'd try to talk them out of it. My dad barely said anything, just looked ashamed. I told them I needed time to think and left. I talked to my husband that night. He was sympathetic to my parents' situation, but also pointed out the reality. We have a 3-bedroom house. 1 bedroom is ours, and the other 2 are for our kids. We don't have a guest room. If my parents moved in, where would they sleep? The basement is unfinished. One of the kids would have to share a room with the other, and we'd have to give up the 2nd bedroom for my parents. Our house would be crowded and chaotic. Plus, my husband reminded me that my parents had never really been there for us. When our first child was born, they visited once in the hospital and then didn't come around much because they were busy helping Tyler renovate his apartment. When we bought our house, they didn't offer to help with the down payment or moving, but they'd given Tyler money for furniture. My husband didn't want to be cruel, but he also didn't want to reward the pattern of favoritism by bailing them out. I called Tyler to see what he thought. He was defensive immediately. He said the wedding was important to Meredith and he couldn't disappoint her. He said our parents had offered the money freely, and it wasn't his fault they didn't plan better. When I suggested he and Meredith could help since they had the money our parents gave them, he said that money was spent, and they had their own expenses now. He actually said that he and Meredith needed to focus on building their future and couldn't take on the responsibility of supporting our parents. I pointed out that they had a 2-bedroom condo and could easily let our parents stay in the 2nd bedroom. Tyler said Meredith needed that room as a home office and wouldn't be comfortable with his parents living there. He said I had a house with more space, so it made more sense for them to stay with me. I hung up on him. The next few days were a nightmare. My mom called me multiple times a day, crying and begging. My dad called once, said he was sorry, but they really needed help. Tyler called to yell at me for being selfish and not helping our parents in their time of need. I pointed out the irony of him calling me selfish when he took $150,000 from them, but he just said that was different. I talked to some friends and family for perspective. The responses were mixed. Some people said family is family, and I should help my parents no matter what. Others said my parents made their bed and needed to lie in it. A few people suggested compromises, like helping them find a better apartment or giving them some money, but not letting them move in. I thought about it long and hard. I talked to my husband. We discussed our finances, our space, our kids' needs, and our own sanity. We came to a decision. We would help my parents, but not by letting them move in. We would give them $10,000 to help them find a better apartment and get settled. We would also help them apply for senior housing, which often has income-based rent and better protections. But they could not live with us. I told my parents our decision. My mom was devastated. She said $10,000 wasn't enough. They needed a stable place to live, and that meant staying with family. She said she couldn't believe I was abandoning them when they needed me most. My dad was quieter, but I could tell he was disappointed too. I stood firm. I explained that we didn't have the space, and that bringing them into our home would disrupt our children's lives and put strain on my marriage. Tyler called me afterwards and screamed at me for being heartless. He said I was letting our parents suffer because of some grudge about the past. He said they were old and sick, and I was basically leaving them to die. I told him he could take them in if he cared so much. He said I was being ridiculous and hung up. My extended family got involved. Aunts and uncles started calling with opinions. Some sided with me, saying my parents should have planned better. Others said I was cruel and should make room for them. One of my aunts suggested that my parents could sue me for elder care support. I looked it up, and in my state, there's no law requiring adult children to support their parents, so that was just a scare tactic. The situation has been ongoing for 2 weeks now. My parents are still in the moldy apartment, though I gave them some money to get a hotel room for a few nights to give my dad's lungs a break. They're looking at other apartments with the $10,000 I gave them, but they're dragging their feet, I think hoping I'll change my mind and let them move in. Tyler and Meredith are posting happy photos on social media from their beautiful condo. Not a care in the world. Tyler hasn't offered any financial help, or even visited our parents in their apartment. But somehow, I'm the bad guy in this situation, because I won't disrupt my entire family's life to fix a problem my parents created by prioritizing him. My kids have noticed the tension. My 5-year-old asked why Grandma sounds sad on the phone. I don't know what to tell her. How do I explain that her grandparents chose to give her uncle a fancy party instead of keeping their house, and now they want to move into her bedroom? Some days I feel guilty. They're my parents, and they're struggling. Shouldn't I do whatever it takes to help them? But then I remember every time they chose Tyler over me. Every time they had money for his wants, but not my needs. Every time they dismissed my accomplishments, but celebrated his. And I remember that they didn't even tell me they were selling their house. They made this massive decision that would affect their entire future, and they didn't think I deserved to know or have input. Other days, I'm just angry. Angry at my parents for being so foolish. Angry at Tyler for taking the money and then refusing to help with the consequences. Angry at Meredith for demanding such an expensive wedding. Angry at myself for even feeling guilty when I know I'm being reasonable. My husband has been supportive, but I can tell this is wearing on him too. He doesn't like seeing me stressed, and he doesn't love that my family drama is invading our peaceful home life. He stood by our decision, but I know he worries about what this means for our relationship with my parents long term. I've started looking into resources for them. Senior housing has waiting lists, but I got them on several. I found some social services that might be able to help. I've researched tenant rights, so they can get their current landlord to fix the mold issue or break their lease legally. I'm doing what I can to help them without sacrificing my own family's well-being. But it doesn't feel like enough to them. My mom keeps saying that real family would take them in. No questions asked. She keeps bringing up how she raised me and sacrificed for me, which is rich considering how differently she treated Tyler. She's trying to guilt me, and sometimes it works. I lie awake at night wondering if I'm making the right choice. Tyler sent me a long text yesterday, saying I'm being petty and holding childhood grudges while our parents suffer. He said when he has money in the future, he'll help them, but right now he's in a tight spot. I wanted to text back that he just spent $150,000 on a wedding, but I didn't. I'm tired of arguing with him. The truth is, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I know I'm doing what's right for my immediate family, my husband and kids. But am I wrong for not helping my parents more? They're old. My dad is sick, and they're living in a bad situation. Does their favoritism toward Tyler excuse me from helping them now that they need it? I keep thinking about what message this sends to my own kids. If I take in my parents despite everything, am I teaching my kids to accept being treated as less than? But if I don't, am I teaching them it's okay to abandon family when they make mistakes? There's no good answer here. My parents made a catastrophically bad decision. Tyler is happy to benefit from it without dealing with consequences, and I'm stuck being the responsible one who has to watch them struggle while protecting my own family. It's not fair, but I guess family rarely is. I'm not looking for judgment. I think I've gotten enough of that from my relatives. I just needed to write this all out, because it's consuming my life right now. Every day is another phone call, another plea, another family member with an opinion. I'm exhausted and heartbroken and angry all at once. Whatever happens next, my relationship with my parents will never be the same. They made their choice when they sold their house for Tyler. Now they're facing the consequences, and I'm facing the guilt of not fixing it for them. This is what our family has become, and I don't know how to make peace with it. Story 3. My husband's ex-wife died, and now his teenage daughter lives with us full-time. She just told me she's been secretly recording our arguments to show her therapist, and I feel violated. I've been married to my husband David for 5 years. He has a daughter from his previous marriage named Olivia, who is now 16. When David and I got together, Olivia was 10 and lived primarily with her mother, Rachel. David had her every other weekend, and one evening a week. It was a manageable arrangement, and Olivia and I got along fine during her visits. Rachel died 8 months ago. It was sudden, a brain aneurysm. She went to sleep one night and never woke up. It was devastating for everyone, especially Olivia. She lost her mother at 15 years old. No warning, no chance to say goodbye. Just gone. I felt terrible for her. I couldn't imagine losing my mother at that age. After Rachel died, Olivia moved in with us full-time. There was no other option. Rachel's parents are elderly and can't take care of a teenager, and Rachel's sister lives overseas. David is her father, and she belongs with him. With us. I understood that, and accepted it, even though it meant a massive change to our household. Before Olivia moved in, it was just David and me. We're both in our late 30s. No other kids. We had a peaceful, quiet life. We both work from home several days a week. Our house is nice, but not huge. 3 bedrooms in a suburban neighborhood. We had our routines, our space, our way of doing things. I knew all of that would change, but I tried to be positive about it. The first few months were rough, which I expected. Olivia was grieving. She was angry, sad, confused, and taking it out on everyone around her. She'd snap at us for small things, spend hours crying in her room, refuse to eat dinner with us. David was grieving too, and trying to be there for his daughter while processing his own feelings about Rachel's death. Even though they had been divorced for 8 years, she was still the mother of his child, and someone he'd once loved. I tried to be understanding and supportive. I gave Olivia space when she needed it, and tried to include her when she seemed open to it. I didn't push her to call me mom or anything like that. I just tried to be a stable, caring adult in her life during an impossible time. David got her into therapy immediately, which I thought was smart. She goes twice a week. But living with a grieving teenager full-time is incredibly hard. Olivia's moods were unpredictable. Some days she'd be almost normal, chatting with us at dinner and doing her homework. Other days she'd scream at us that we didn't understand anything and slam doors. I tried not to take it personally. I knew she was hurting. The problem is that David and I started arguing more. We'd never been big fighters before. Sure, we'd have disagreements like any couple, but we usually talked things through calmly. But with Olivia living with us full time, there were so many new sources of tension. Should we make her do chores or give her a pass because she's grieving? Should we enforce a curfew or be lenient? How much should we push her to socialize versus respecting her need for solitude? What about her grades that were slipping? Should we get involved or let her work through it? David and I had different opinions on a lot of these things. I tended to think we needed some structure and normalcy, that letting everything slide wasn't helping Olivia long term. David felt like we needed to be more flexible and patient, given what she'd been through. Both perspectives were valid, but we couldn't seem to find middle ground. Our arguments weren't screaming matches or anything like that. We'd have tense conversations. Sometimes our voices would get raised. Sometimes I'd say things I didn't mean out of frustration. David would too. It was stress and exhaustion talking. We were both doing our best in a difficult situation, but our best wasn't always pretty. I thought these arguments were private. We usually had them in our bedroom with the door closed, or in the kitchen when we thought Olivia was upstairs with headphones on. We tried not to fight in front of her. We didn't want to add to her stress or make her feel like she was causing problems between us, even though the reality was that the situation was definitely straining our marriage. Last week, Olivia asked if she could talk to both of us. She seemed nervous. We sat down in the living room and she pulled out her phone. She said her therapist had suggested she share something with us. Then she said she'd been recording our arguments for the past 3 months and playing them for her therapist to help him understand the household dynamics. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. She'd been recording us, our private conversations, without our knowledge or consent. She started to play one of the recordings, and I heard my own voice coming from her phone, saying things I'd said to David in what I thought was a private moment. I told her to stop playing it. David asked how many recordings she had. Olivia said probably around 30 or 40. She pulled them up on her phone to show us. Each one was labeled with the date and a brief description. I saw titles like Argument About My Curfew, Fighting About Dinner, Yelling About My Grades. My hands were shaking. Months of private moments between my husband and me had been recorded and shared with a stranger. I asked Olivia why she would do this. She said her therapist wanted to understand what her home environment was like, and she couldn't always remember the details of our arguments clearly. So she started recording them to have accurate information to share. She said her therapist thought it was important for him to hear exactly what was being said, so he could give her better advice. I was furious. I told Olivia that recording people without their consent was a violation of privacy and potentially illegal, depending on our state's laws. I said that our arguments were between David and me, not material for her therapy sessions. She started crying and said she wasn't trying to be sneaky. She was just trying to get help. David put his arm around her and told me to calm down. That made me even angrier. I said I had a right to be upset and David should be upset too. These were our private conversations. Things said in anger or frustration that we never intended for anyone else to hear. And now some therapist we'd never met had listened to dozens of them and probably formed all sorts of opinions about us and our marriage. David said we could discuss it later, and that we needed to be understanding of why Olivia did it. She was struggling and trying to get help. I said that didn't excuse violating our privacy. Olivia ran upstairs crying. David followed her. I sat in the living room alone, feeling violated and angry and confused. Later that night, David and I talked. He said he understood why I was upset, but we needed to have compassion for what Olivia was going through. I said compassion didn't mean accepting everything she did without boundaries. Recording us was wrong, and we needed to address it. David said we could ask her to stop, but we shouldn't make her feel bad about what she'd already done. I disagreed. I thought we needed to have a serious conversation about privacy and consent. I wanted her to delete the recordings. I also wanted to talk to her therapist about whether he'd really encouraged this, or if Olivia had misunderstood. David thought confronting the therapist would be overstepping and making Olivia feel like we didn't trust her. We went to bed angry at each other, which has been happening more and more lately. I barely slept. I kept thinking about all the things I'd said in those arguments, things I said when I was tired and frustrated, and at my limit, things that probably sounded terrible out of context, things that made me sound like a villain. The next day, I did some research. In our state, only one party needs to consent to a recording, which means what Olivia did was technically legal, since she was present during the arguments. But legal doesn't mean right. It doesn't mean it wasn't a massive violation of trust and privacy. I also started thinking about what exactly was on those recordings. There were definitely moments where I'd complained about how hard it was having Olivia living with us. Times I'd told David I missed our old life. Times I'd said I didn't sign up for full-time parenting of a teenager. Times I'd expressed frustration about Olivia's behavior. All of those things were valid feelings that I should have been able to express privately to my husband, but now they'd been shared with her therapist and possibly discussed in front of Olivia. I felt exposed and judged. I imagined this therapist listening to me complain about his patient and thinking I was a terrible person, a wicked stepmother figure who resented this poor, grieving girl. That's not who I am. I care about Olivia, but I'm also human, and this situation is hard, and I need to be able to process those feelings with my husband without worrying about being recorded. I decided I needed to talk to Olivia directly. I waited until David was at work and approached her in her room. I told her I wanted to have a calm conversation about the recordings. She was defensive immediately. She said she didn't do anything wrong, and her therapist said it was okay. I explained that even if her therapist said it was okay, it wasn't okay with me. Those were private conversations, and I felt violated knowing they'd been recorded and shared. I told her that everyone says things in private they wouldn't say publicly, and that doesn't make them bad people. It makes them human. She said if I didn't want her to hear bad things about her, maybe I shouldn't say them. That hurt. I asked her what she'd heard. She said she'd listened to some of the recordings after she made them. She'd heard me say I missed my old life. She'd heard me say having her here was hard. She'd heard me tell David that I didn't know if I could do this. She started crying and said she knew I didn't want her here, and now she had proof. I tried to explain that feeling overwhelmed by a difficult situation doesn't mean I don't want her here or don't care about her. I told her that adjusting to her living with us full-time was a big change, and it was natural for me to struggle with it sometimes. That didn't mean I regretted her being here or wanted her gone, but she wouldn't hear it. She said the recordings didn't lie, and she knew how I really felt. I didn't know what to say. How do you explain to a 16-year-old that adults need space to express complicated feelings? That saying something is hard doesn't mean you're not committed to it? That private venting to your spouse is healthy and doesn't reflect your true feelings about a situation? David came home, and Olivia immediately told him about our conversation. She made it sound like I'd attacked her for the recordings. David was frustrated with me for approaching her without him there. He said we should have discussed how to handle this as a team. I said I tried to handle it calmly and directly with Olivia, but she twisted everything I said. We had another argument. This one with Olivia in the next room. I wondered if she was recording this one too. The thought made me paranoid. Now every conversation in my own house felt like it might be documented. I couldn't relax. I couldn't speak freely. My home no longer felt like a safe space. I told David I wanted a family meeting with Olivia and her therapist. I wanted to discuss the recordings, the breach of privacy, and how we move forward. I wanted the therapist to understand our perspective and to clarify whether he really encouraged this. David was reluctant, but eventually agreed. We had the meeting yesterday. The therapist's name is Dr. Chen, and he seemed nice enough. He explained that he had suggested Olivia document what was happening at home because she was having trouble articulating her feelings about the household environment. He said he didn't specifically tell her to record us, but when she mentioned she'd been doing so, he didn't stop her because the recordings were helping her process her experiences. I asked Dr. Chen if he considered the ethical implications of listening to recordings made without everyone's consent. He said that in therapy, the focus is on the client's well-being and perspective. The recordings helped him understand what Olivia was experiencing. He wasn't there to judge David or me, just to help Olivia. I explained that regardless of his intentions, the recordings had damaged trust in our household. I felt violated, and now felt like I couldn't speak freely in my own home. David and I needed to be able to have private conversations without worrying about being documented and analyzed. Dr. Chen nodded and said he understood that perspective. Olivia jumped in and said she'd stop recording if we wanted, but she thought we were being unfair. She said she needed help understanding what was happening in her life, and the recordings were part of that. She said if we had nothing to hide, we shouldn't care about being recorded. That logic frustrated me. Privacy isn't about having something to hide. It's about having space to be imperfect and human without surveillance. Dr. Chen suggested a compromise. Olivia would delete the existing recordings and wouldn't make any new ones. In exchange, David and I would work on communicating more openly with Olivia about household decisions and being mindful of how our arguments might affect her, even when we think they're private. We all agreed, though I could tell Olivia wasn't happy about deleting the recordings. Since that meeting, things have been tense. Olivia is barely speaking to me. She clearly feels like I'm the villain here, the one who ruined her coping mechanism and made her delete evidence of how difficult I make her life. David is trying to play peacemaker, but he's exhausted. Our marriage is strained in ways it's never been before. I find myself watching what I say all the time now, even though Olivia supposedly isn't recording anymore. I don't fully trust that she won't start again. Every time I need to vent to David about something, I wonder if we're really alone. I catch myself looking around for her phone, checking if doors are really closed. It's making me anxious and paranoid in my own home. Part of me understands why Olivia did what she did. She's a kid who lost her mom and got thrown into a new living situation. She's trying to make sense of a world that suddenly makes no sense. She probably did feel like the recordings would help her in therapy. But understanding why she did it doesn't make it okay. It doesn't repair the trust that was broken. I also can't stop thinking about what she heard on those recordings. All my worst moments, my most frustrated complaints, my weakest points. That's what she'll remember about this time. Not the times I made her favorite meals, or helped her with homework, or gave her space when she needed it. She'll remember me saying I missed my old life. And maybe that's fair. Maybe I deserve to be judged for those moments. David thinks I'm being too hard on her. He says she's 16 and grieving and made a mistake in judgment. He wants me to let it go and move forward. But I can't just let it go. This isn't a small thing. This changed how I feel in my own home. This changed how safe I feel being honest with my husband about my struggles. I'm also worried about what this means for the future. If Olivia felt justified recording us when she disagreed with our parenting, or found our arguments upsetting, what else might she feel justified doing? Will she share private family information with friends? Post about us on social media? Use things we say against us in other ways? I don't know if I'm overreacting, or if these are legitimate concerns. Meanwhile, Olivia is still grieving and still struggling. Her grades haven't improved. She's withdrawn from her friends. She spends most of her time in her room. I want to help her, but I don't know how anymore. I feel like anything I say or do will be wrong. If I give her space, I'm neglecting her. If I try to engage, I'm pushing too hard. I can't win. David is caught in the middle, and it's not fair to him. He lost his ex-wife, is watching his daughter struggle, and his marriage is falling apart. He's doing his best, but his best isn't enough to fix this situation. Nobody's best is enough. This is just a terrible situation that nobody asked for, and everyone is handling imperfectly. I've thought about suggesting family therapy for all of us, not just Olivia's individual therapy. Maybe a neutral third party could help us navigate this, but I'm also worried that would just create another space where everything I say and do is analyzed and judged. I'm tired of being watched and evaluated. I just want to exist without feeling like I'm constantly being recorded. Some of my friends have been supportive, but others have been judgmental. A few have said I'm being too sensitive and that Olivia is just a kid doing her best. One friend said I should be glad Olivia was taking her mental health seriously enough to work with her therapist in whatever way helped her, but none of them are living this. None of them know what it's like to discover months of your private life have been documented and shared. I love David, and I don't want our marriage to end over this, but I also don't know how to move past feeling violated and uncomfortable in my own home. I don't know how to rebuild trust with a teenager who thinks I'm the enemy. I don't know how to be the supportive stepmother I want to be when every interaction feels loaded and risky. Last night, I had a dream that I was in my house, but every room had cameras in it. I kept trying to find a private space, but there were cameras everywhere. I woke up in a panic. David asked if I was okay, and I said I was fine, but I wasn't. I'm not fine. I haven't been fine since I found out about the recordings. I know Olivia is going through something unimaginably hard. Losing a parent as a teenager is traumatic and life-altering. I have compassion for that, but I'm also going through something hard. I'm trying to help raise a grieving teenager who isn't my biological child, while maintaining my marriage and my own mental health. I'm allowed to struggle with that. I'm allowed to need privacy and space to process my own feelings. The question is whether Olivia and I can get past this, whether she can forgive me for the things she heard on those recordings, and whether I can forgive her for making them in the first place. Whether David and I can repair the damage this has done to our marriage, whether our family can heal from this, or if it's just one more wound that never fully closes. I don't have answers. I just have a house that doesn't feel like home anymore, a stepdaughter who thinks I resent her, and a husband who's stretched too thin trying to keep everyone happy. This is our reality now, and I don't know how to make it better. I just know that something has to change, because we can't keep going like this. Nobody can live long-term with this level of tension and mistrust. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time, trying to be patient with Olivia, trying to communicate better with David, trying to process my own feelings about the violation of privacy, trying to remember that we're all just doing our best in an impossible situation. Some days, that's enough to keep going. Other days, it's not. Today, I honestly don't know which kind of day it is. Story 4. My adult son brought his pregnant girlfriend to Thanksgiving and announced she's keeping the baby despite his wishes. Now, my wife wants to cut him off completely, and I'm torn. I'm 52 years old, and I thought I had a pretty good relationship with my son Jason until 3 weeks ago. Jason is 25, graduated college 3 years ago, and has been working as a software developer making decent money. He's always been responsible, ambitious, and level-headed. My wife Karen and I were proud of the man he'd become. Jason has been dating his girlfriend Brittany for about 18 months. We'd met her a handful of times at family gatherings, and she seemed nice enough. She's 23, works as a dental hygienist, and comes from a big family. Jason had mentioned they were getting serious, but nothing about engagement or long-term plans yet. We figured they were still in the getting-to-know-you phase. Thanksgiving this year was at our house like it usually is. Karen goes all out with the cooking and decorating. We had about 15 people coming, including my parents, Karen's sister, and her family. and Jason with Brittany. It was supposed to be a nice, normal family holiday. Jason and Brittany arrived together, and something seemed off immediately. They were both quiet and tense. Brittany looked like she'd been crying. I asked if everything was okay, and Jason said they needed to talk to everyone after dinner. That put a damper on the whole meal. Everyone was trying to act normal, but you could feel the tension. After we finished eating and before dessert, Jason stood up and asked for everyone's attention. He said he had an announcement. My first thought was that they were engaged. Karen grabbed my hand under the table, excited. Then Jason said that Brittany was pregnant. She was 12 weeks along. The room went completely silent. I looked at Brittany, and she was staring at her plate. Jason continued talking. He said that the pregnancy wasn't planned. They'd been careful, but sometimes these things happen. Then he said that he and Brittany had different views on how to handle the situation. Jason said he wasn't ready to be a father. He's only 25, focused on his career, and doesn't want the responsibility of a child right now. He had suggested to Brittany that they terminate the pregnancy, or consider adoption, but Brittany had decided she wanted to keep the baby. Jason said he felt trapped and didn't know what to do. Brittany finally spoke up. She was crying. She said she understood Jason's concerns, but she couldn't go through with an abortion. It went against her personal beliefs, and she'd already bonded with the pregnancy. She said she wasn't trying to trap Jason, and would respect whatever level of involvement he wanted, but she was having this baby with or without him. The room erupted. My mother started crying with joy about a great grandchild. Karen's face had gone white. Karen's sister started asking practical questions about their plans. My dad just looked shocked. I didn't know what to say. This was a lot to process. Jason looked miserable. He said he wanted to be clear that he wasn't abandoning his responsibilities. If Brittany was having this baby, he would pay child support and be involved as much as he could, but he wanted everyone to understand that this wasn't what he wanted, and he felt like his life was being derailed against his wishes. Karen stood up abruptly and left the room. I followed her to the kitchen. She was furious. She said Jason was being selfish and immature. If he was adult enough to have sex, he needed to be adult enough to handle the consequences. She said his attitude toward Brittany and the baby was disgusting, and she was ashamed of him. I tried to calm her down, but she wasn't having it. We went back to the dining room, and Karen told Jason exactly what she thought. She said he was treating Brittany terribly, that accusing her of trapping him was unfair, and that his attitude needed to change immediately. Jason got defensive and said he had a right to his feelings. Karen said feelings are one thing, but making Brittany feel bad for not having an abortion was cruel. Brittany started crying harder. My mom tried to comfort her. Jason said that wasn't what he was doing, he was just being honest about the situation. Karen said honesty without compassion is just cruelty. The whole dinner had turned into a disaster. Eventually, people started leaving. The mood was completely ruined. My parents left looking worried. Karen's sister pulled me aside and said she felt terrible for Brittany, being pregnant and having the father of her baby announce to his whole family that he doesn't want it. She said Jason needed to grow up fast. After everyone left, Karen and I tried to talk to Jason and Brittany. Karen was still angry, but trying to be constructive. She asked them what their actual plan was. Brittany said she was going to have the baby and raise it. She had family support and could manage financially with child support. She said she hoped Jason would come around, but wasn't counting on it. Jason said he would meet his legal obligations, but wanted to be clear that he didn't want to be a hands-on father. He would pay child support, but didn't want to do the day-to-day parenting stuff. Brittany said that was his choice, but she thought he'd regret it. Jason said maybe, but it was still his choice to make. Karen lost it again. She told Jason that you don't get to opt out of being a parent just because the timing isn't convenient. She said life doesn't work that way, and he needed to step up. Jason said he wasn't opting out. He was being realistic about what he could handle. Karen said that was a cop-out. The argument went on for over an hour. Finally, Jason and Brittany left. Brittany apologized to us on the way out, which made me feel terrible. None of this was her fault. She didn't get pregnant on her own. Jason was equally responsible, but she was the one being treated like she'd done something wrong. After they left, Karen and I had our own argument. She wanted to cut Jason off financially. We'd been helping him with some expenses, paying his car insurance and phone bill, and we'd given him money for a down payment on a condo he was planning to buy. Karen wanted to stop all of that immediately. She said if he was adult enough to have a baby, he was adult enough to pay his own bills. I said that seemed harsh. Jason was going to have child support payments now, and cutting him off would just make his financial situation worse. Karen said that was his problem. She said he made his choices, and now he had to live with them. She also said she wasn't going to reward his behavior by continuing to support him while he abandoned his own child. I pointed out that he wasn't abandoning the child. He said he'd pay child support and be involved to some degree. Karen said paying money wasn't being a father. She said if Jason was going to be a deadbeat dad, he could figure out his own finances. I said calling him a deadbeat dad seemed extreme. He was being honest about his limitations. Karen said there shouldn't be limitations when it comes to your own child. She said our generation had kids younger than Jason and figured it out. Nobody asked if they were ready or if the timing was convenient. You just did what needed to be done. I said times were different now, and people had different expectations about when to have kids. We went to bed angry at each other. Over the next few days, Karen made good on her threat. She took Jason off our phone plan and told him he needed to pay his own car insurance. She also told him we wouldn't be giving him the down payment money we'd promised. Jason was upset, but not surprised. I talked to Jason alone a few days later. I asked him to really think about his decision. I told him that being a father could be the best thing that ever happened to him, even if it wasn't planned. I said I understood being scared, but that he might regret not being fully involved. Jason said he appreciated my perspective, but he'd already thought about it extensively. He said he knew everyone expected him to suddenly want to be a dad once the baby was born, but he didn't think that was going to happen. He said he'd rather be honest about his limitations now than promise to be a hands-on father and then fail at it. He also said something that stuck with me. He said if Brittany had decided to terminate the pregnancy or pursue adoption, no one would be calling her selfish or a deadbeat. Her choice would have been respected. But because he's the man, he doesn't get a choice. Once Brittany decided to keep the baby, his life changed, whether he wanted it to or not. I didn't know how to respond to that. On one hand, he was right that Brittany had choices he didn't have. If she'd wanted an abortion, that would have been her decision. But on the other hand, biology isn't fair. Women carry the babies and have to make difficult decisions about their own bodies. That doesn't mean men get to opt out of the consequences. I talked to my own father about it. He said in his day, you married the girl and raised the baby. That's what you did. He said Jason's attitude was foreign to him, and he didn't understand it. But he also said times had changed, and he wasn't going to judge. He said the baby would be his great-grandchild regardless, and he intended to be part of its life. My mother had a different take. She said she felt for Jason, because parenting is hard, and doing it when you're not ready can be miserable for everyone involved. But she also said that once you're a parent, you're a parent. You don't have to like it, but you have to do it. She said she hoped Jason would change his mind once he met the baby. Karen's position hasn't softened at all. She stopped talking to Jason almost entirely. When he calls or texts, she gives short answers or doesn't respond at all. She's told her friends and family about the situation, and from what I hear, she's not painting Jason in a good light. She's firmly on Brittany's side in all of this. I'm caught in the middle. I don't think Jason is handling this perfectly, but I also don't think he's a monster. He's a young guy who wasn't ready to be a father, and is trying to be honest about that. Is it better to force himself into a role he doesn't want, and possibly resent the child? Or is it better to be minimally involved and let Brittany raise the child with people who actually want to be there? I've tried to maintain a relationship with both Jason and Brittany. I've told Brittany that regardless of what happens with Jason, I want to be part of my grandchild's life. She appreciated that and said I was welcome anytime. That made Karen even more angry. She said I was undermining her by staying in contact with Jason and not taking a harder stance. I asked Karen what she wanted the outcome to be. Did she want Jason to suddenly become an enthusiastic father-to-be? Did she want him to marry Brittany? What was the goal here? She said she wanted him to take responsibility and stop acting like a victim. I said paying child support and being honest about his limitations was taking responsibility. We've been arguing about this constantly for 3 weeks. It's putting a strain on our marriage. Karen thinks I'm being too soft on Jason and enabling his bad behavior. I think Karen is being too harsh and pushing our son away at a time when he needs support. Neither of us is willing to budge. Jason has started seeing a therapist to work through his feelings about the pregnancy. I think that's a good step. The therapist has apparently told him that it's okay to have complicated feelings about becoming a parent, and that acknowledging his ambivalence is healthier than pretending to be excited. Karen disagrees. She says therapy is just giving Jason permission to be selfish. She says sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do because it's the right thing. I said, forcing yourself to be a parent when you're not ready isn't necessarily the right thing for the child. Studies show that kids raised by resentful parents suffer. Brittany is now 16 weeks pregnant and starting to show. She posts updates on social media about the pregnancy. My mother comments on all of them with excitement. Karen refuses to follow Brittany or acknowledge the pregnancy publicly. She says she won't celebrate Jason's irresponsibility. I asked Karen if she planned to be part of the baby's life at all. She said she didn't know. She said it would depend on how Jason handled things over the next few months. If he stepped up and became a real father, she'd be involved. If he continued to be distant and treat Brittany poorly, she didn't think she could stomach being around them. That shocked me. I told her this was our grandchild, and we didn't get to conditionally participate in its life based on whether we approved of Jason's parenting. She said we absolutely did get to make that choice. She said she wasn't going to pretend everything was fine and play happy grandma while Jason shirked his responsibilities. I've been thinking a lot about what it means to support your adult children. When they make choices you disagree with, do you stand by them, or do you hold them accountable? Is it possible to do both? I want to support Jason because he's my son, and he's struggling. But I also don't want to enable behavior that might hurt him, Brittany, or the baby in the long run. Brittany invited us to her next ultrasound appointment. She's finding out the gender. I want to go. Karen says she's not going and doesn't want me to go either. She says it would be disloyal to her and would send Jason the message that we approve of his behavior. I said, going to an ultrasound isn't approving or disapproving of anything. It's supporting our future grandchild. We had another huge fight about it. Karen said if I went, she'd take it as choosing Jason over her. I said that was ridiculous, and I wasn't choosing anyone over anyone. I was trying to maintain relationships with everyone in this messy situation. She said there was no staying neutral here, and I needed to pick a side. I hate that this is what our family has become. 3 weeks ago, we were all gathered around a Thanksgiving table. Now my wife isn't speaking to our son. I'm caught in the middle, and there's a baby coming in 5 months that half the family is excited about and half the family is treating like a shameful secret. Jason called me yesterday. He sounded depressed. He said he knows everyone thinks he's a terrible person, and maybe they're right. He said he's trying to do the right thing but doesn't know what that is anymore. He said he wishes he could go back and make different choices, but he can't, so he's trying to make the best of a bad situation. I told him I didn't think he was terrible. I said he was human and in a difficult position. I said I hoped he'd consider being more involved once the baby was born, but I respected that he needed to figure this out on his own terms. He said he appreciated that I wasn't judging him like everyone else was. After we hung up, I felt guilty. Was I being too supportive? Was I making it easier for him to avoid his responsibilities? Or was I being a good father by meeting my son where he was, instead of where I wanted him to be? Brittany posted the ultrasound pictures today. "It's a girl," my mother commented, immediately saying how excited she was for her great-granddaughter. Karen saw the post and didn't say anything. I wanted to comment, but felt weird about it, given the family tension. So I texted Brittany privately to congratulate her. She thanked me and said she was happy. Jason hasn't posted anything about the baby. His social media is the same as it's always been. Work stuff and hobbies. No mention that he's about to be a father. Karen pointed this out as evidence of his lack of commitment. I said not everyone shares their personal life on social media. She said that wasn't the point. I don't know what the next 5 months are going to look like. I don't know if Karen will soften her position, or if Jason will change his mind about his level of involvement. I don't know if our family can heal from this, or if this will be a permanent rift. I don't know if I'm handling this right or making everything worse by trying to stay neutral. What I do know is that in about 5 months, there's going to be a baby girl who didn't ask for any of this. She'll be born into a complicated family situation, with a father who's ambivalent about her existence, and a grandmother who's angry at everyone. That baby deserves better than this mess. I hope Jason comes around when he meets his daughter. I hope Karen finds a way to forgive him and be part of her granddaughter's life. I hope Brittany finds support and happiness despite this difficult situation. And I hope I can figure out how to be a good father and a good grandfather while my family falls apart around me. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. I talk to Jason when he needs someone to listen. I reach out to Brittany to let her know she has support. I try to have conversations with Karen about finding middle ground, though those usually end in arguments. And I think about that baby girl who's coming in May, innocent in all of this. And I pray that somehow we all figure out how to do right by her. My dad told me something the other day that's been on my mind. He said that being a parent means loving your kids, even when you don't like their choices. He said you can disapprove of what they're doing while still showing up for them. He said that's the job, and it doesn't end when they turn 18, or make mistakes, or disappoint you. I think he's right. Jason made choices I wish he hadn't made. He's handling this situation in ways I don't fully agree with, but he's still my son, and that baby girl is still my granddaughter. My job is to love them both and try to help this family find its way through this mess. I just wish I knew how to do that while keeping my marriage intact and my own sanity stable. Karen sees things differently. For her, this is about principles and doing what's right. She believes Jason is wrong and needs to be held accountable. She thinks supporting him is the same as condoning his behavior. She's willing to sacrifice her relationship with her son if it means standing up for what she believes is right. I don't know which one of us has the right approach. Maybe there is no right approach. Maybe we're all just doing the best we can in an impossible situation. Maybe 5 months from now, when that baby is born, everything will become clear. Or maybe it will just get more complicated. I honestly have no idea. All I can do is keep showing up and hoping that love is enough to get us through this. Story 5. I discovered my sister has been pretending to be me online for years and has built an entire fake life using my photos and information. Our family thinks I'm overreacting. I'm 29 years old, and I just found out that my younger sister has been catfishing people using my identity for the past 4 years. I'm still trying to process this, and my family's reaction is making it so much worse. My sister, Lindsay, is 26. Growing up, we had a complicated relationship. I was the academic achiever who got good grades and went to a prestigious university on scholarship. Lindsay struggled in school and barely graduated high school. I'm not saying this to be mean. It's just context. Our parents tried not to compare us, but it was obvious they were disappointed that Lindsay didn't follow a similar path. After high school, Lindsay bounced around between community college classes she'd drop and various retail jobs. She still lives with our parents and doesn't seem to have much direction in life. Meanwhile, I moved across the country for work, got a great job in marketing, bought my own place, and have been living independently for 7 years. Lindsay and I kept in touch, but weren't super close. We'd text occasionally and see each other at holidays. She seemed fine with her life, and I was busy with mine. I never had any reason to think she resented me or was doing anything strange behind my back. 2 weeks ago, I got a weird message on Instagram from someone I didn't know. The message said something like, "Hey, I thought we were friends, but you've been ignoring me. Did I do something wrong?" I was confused because I'd never seen this person's profile before. I replied saying they must have me confused with someone else. The person sent back screenshots of conversations they'd apparently had with someone using my name. But it wasn't me. The messages were from an account I'd never seen before. The profile picture was one of my photos from Facebook, a picture I'd posted maybe 3 years ago. The username was a variation of my name. The bio had information about me, where I went to college, what I do for work. I was immediately creeped out. Someone had made a fake account pretending to be me. I started investigating. I found the account, and my stomach dropped. It had hundreds of posts, all using photos of me stolen from my various social media accounts. Photos from vacations, photos with friends, photos from my apartment. Whoever made this had gone through years of my posts and saved everything. The fake account had over 2,000 followers. The posts weren't just my photos either. They were captioned with made-up stories about a life I wasn't living. Posts about restaurants I'd never been to, events I'd never attended, thoughts I'd never had. Someone had created an entire fictional version of my life using my face and name. I went through the comments and messages. This fake me had been having conversations with dozens of people, making friends, sharing personal stories. Some people seemed to think they knew me well. They'd comment things like, "So glad you're feeling better," or "Can't wait to see you next month" on posts. This fake version of me had a whole social life I knew nothing about. I reported the account to Instagram, but in the meantime, I started trying to figure out who was behind it. I looked at the followers and people the account followed. That's when I saw my sister's account among the followers. My heart sank. I clicked through to some of the fake account's close friends and saw several people who I recognized as Lindsay's actual friends. Well, friends from high school. I called Lindsay immediately. I asked her if she knew about the fake account. She got really quiet. Then she asked how I found out. That's when I knew it was her. I asked her why she would do this, and she started crying. She said she was sorry and didn't mean for it to get so out of hand. I was furious. I demanded an explanation. Lindsay said it started 4 years ago, when she was feeling really bad about her life. She saw my Instagram posts about my job and my apartment and my trips, and she felt like a failure in comparison. One night when she was drunk, she made a fake account pretending to be me, just to see what it felt like to be someone successful. She said at first it was harmless. She'd post pictures and make up stories, and it made her feel good. People would compliment the photos and engage with her posts, and it gave her confidence she didn't have in real life. Then people started messaging the account wanting to be friends. Lindsay said she thought about stopping, but she liked the attention and the feeling of being someone people wanted to know. Over time, the fake account developed its own friend group. Lindsay, as me, would have conversations with people, give them advice, share opinions. She created an entire personality for this fake version of me. She told me some of these people thought they were close friends with me. They'd shared personal things with her, thinking they were talking to me. I asked her how she thought this was okay. She said she knew it wasn't, but she couldn't stop. It had become this escape from her real life. When she was pretending to be me, she felt like the person she wished she could be. She said it was like playing a character, and it was the only time she felt good about herself. I asked what she told people about where I lived and worked. She said she kept it vague, but used real details from my life. She told people she worked in marketing in the city where I actually live. She posted photos from inside my actual apartment that she'd screenshot from my stories. She basically created a parallel version of my life that was similar enough to be believable, but with added elements that made it more interesting. I was horrified. I asked if she'd ever met up with any of these people in person. She admitted she had. Twice. She said she'd met with people who happened to be visiting the city where I live. She dressed like me, styled her hair like mine, and pretended to be me. She said both times were just coffee dates and nothing bad happened, but I was disgusted. I told her she needed to delete the account immediately and come clean to everyone she'd been lying to. She begged me not to make her do that. She said these were real friendships to her now, and she didn't want to lose them. I said they weren't real friendships. They were based on lies. She was crying and saying she'd delete the account, but asking me not to tell our parents. I needed to talk to someone, so I called our parents. I told them everything. I expected them to be shocked and angry on my behalf. Instead, they seemed more concerned about Lindsay. My mom asked if Lindsay was okay and said this sounded like she was going through something. My dad said it was concerning behavior, but we needed to be gentle with her. I asked if they understood that Lindsay had stolen my identity and been pretending to be me for 4 years. My mom said it wasn't really identity theft since she wasn't using my financial information or anything like that. She said it was more like Lindsay was struggling with self-esteem and made some poor choices. My dad said we should focus on getting Lindsay help rather than punishing her. I was stunned. I said Lindsay had violated my privacy, used my photos without permission, and created a fake version of me that she'd been using to deceive people. My mom said she understood I was upset, but Lindsay was fragile right now and needed support. She asked me to try to have compassion for what Lindsay must be going through. I felt like I was going crazy. Was I overreacting? My parents were treating this like Lindsay had made a small mistake instead of what it actually was, which was a massive violation. I told them I wanted Lindsay to delete the account and tell everyone the truth. My mom said that might be too much for Lindsay to handle emotionally, and we should take things slowly. The next day, Lindsay called me. She said she'd deleted the account. I asked if she'd told people the truth first, and she said no. She just deleted it. I was angry because now all these people who thought they were friends with me would just think I'd randomly deleted my account and ghosted them. She said she was sorry, but she couldn't handle telling them all the truth. I decided to do some damage control myself. I started messaging people who had followed the fake account, explaining that it wasn't me and that someone had been impersonating me. Most people were understanding and apologetic. A few were angry and accused me of lying. One person said they'd shared really personal things with fake me and felt betrayed. I felt terrible, even though I hadn't done anything wrong. The person who had originally messaged me was especially upset. She said she thought we'd become real friends over the past year. Fake me had given her advice about her relationship and her job. They'd had deep conversations about life and struggles. Finding out it was all fake was devastating to her. I tried to apologize on Lindsay's behalf, but what could I really say? I found out through mutual friends that Lindsay had been talking about this situation too, but with a very different spin. She'd been telling people that she made a fan account of me because she admired me so much and it got out of hand. She made it sound like she was a devoted sister who took admiration too far, rather than someone who deliberately stole my identity. Our extended family got involved. Some cousins and aunts reached out to me. Their reactions were mixed. A few understood why I was upset and agreed that what Lindsay did was wrong. But others echoed my parents' sentiments that I should be more understanding of Lindsay's mental health struggles. One aunt told me I should be flattered that Lindsay looked up to me so much. Flattered? I was supposed to be flattered that my sister stole my identity and pretended to be me for 4 years? I tried to explain how violating it felt to know that someone had gone through all my photos, studied my life, and created a fake version of me. But people kept pivoting back to Lindsay's feelings and struggles. I talked to some of my own friends about it. They were horrified on my behalf. They understood immediately why this was such a violation. They said Lindsay needed therapy, and that what she did was creepy and wrong. Talking to them made me feel less crazy. At least, someone understood why I was so upset. I started going through all my social media and changing my privacy settings. I made my accounts private and removed photos I didn't want public. But the damage was done. Lindsay had already saved hundreds of my photos. Who knows if she still has them, or what she might do with them in the future. I also started thinking about what else Lindsay might have done. If she was willing to create a fake Instagram account and maintain it for 4 years, what else was she capable of? Had she done this on other platforms? Had she used my identity in other ways I didn't know about? The trust was completely gone. My parents suggested we all have a family meeting to discuss this. I agreed, hoping that in person we could have a real conversation about how serious this was. The meeting was a disaster. Lindsay showed up with our mom and immediately started crying. She apologized to me, but in a way that felt performative. She said she never meant to hurt me, and she was dealing with depression and low self-esteem. I said I understood she was struggling, but that didn't excuse what she did. I said she needed professional help, and she needed to take real accountability. My mom jumped in and said I was being too harsh. She said Lindsay had already apologized and deleted the account, and I needed to move on. I said deleting the account wasn't enough, and I wanted to know how I could trust her going forward. My dad tried to mediate, but he was clearly on Lindsay's side. He said siblings fight and make mistakes, and we needed to forgive each other. I said this wasn't a normal sibling fight. This was identity theft. He said I was being dramatic by calling it identity theft. I pulled up the legal definition of identity theft and showed him that using someone's personal information to create a false identity could qualify. He said I wasn't going to call the police on my own sister. I hadn't even considered involving police, but now that he mentioned it, maybe I should have. I said I just wanted everyone to acknowledge that what Lindsay did was seriously wrong, and that she needed consequences and help. My mom said the consequence was that she had to delete an account she enjoyed and lose friends she'd made. I said those weren't real consequences because those friends were never really hers to begin with. We went in circles for 2 hours. Every time I tried to explain how violated I felt, someone would redirect to Lindsay's feelings. Every time I asked for accountability, someone would say I was being unforgiving. I finally left in frustration. I told them I needed space, and I wasn't ready to just pretend this didn't happen. Since then, my relationship with my family has been strained. My parents call occasionally to check in, but they always end up asking when I'm getting to forgive Lindsay. They frame it like I'm holding a grudge, instead of processing a legitimate violation. Lindsay has texted a few times with half-hearted apologies, but nothing that feels like real remorse. I've started seeing a therapist to work through this. She validated that what Lindsay did was serious, and that my feelings were completely justified. She said my family's response was probably coming from a place of wanting to protect Lindsay, because they see her as vulnerable, but that didn't make it right. She encouraged me to set boundaries with my family, and not let them minimize my experience. I've also been dealing with practical fallout. Some people who were friends with the fake account have found my real accounts and messaged me. Some are apologetic for falling for it. Others are angry at me as if I had something to do with it. A few have asked intrusive questions about Lindsay and what would make someone do this. I've had to block several people because the messages were too much. One person sent me a long message detailing all the conversations they'd had with Fake Me. Reading through them was surreal. Lindsay had given this person advice about their family problems, shared fake stories about my supposed childhood, and created this whole persona. Some of the things she'd said were based in truth, but twisted. Other things were complete fabrications. It was like reading about a stranger who looked like me. The worst part is wondering how many other people are out there who think they know me but actually know Lindsay's version of me. What if I run into someone in my city who recognizes me from the fake account? What if there are people who have negative impressions of me based on things Lindsay said or did while pretending to be me? I feel like my reputation has been tampered with, and there's no way to control the damage. I've also been thinking about why Lindsay did this specifically to me. She could have created any fake persona. She could have pretended to be a fictional person, but she specifically chose to be me. What does that say about how she sees me? Does she resent me? Does she wish she was me? Is this admiration or jealousy or something else entirely? My parents insist Lindsay did this because she looks up to me and I should take it as a compliment, but it doesn't feel like a compliment. It feels like she wanted to take my life for herself, like she saw my life as something worth stealing. That's not flattering. It's disturbing. I've set firm boundaries with my family. I told them I'm not attending any family events that Lindsay will be at until she gets professional help, and we have a real conversation about this with a therapist present. My parents are upset about this. They say I'm tearing the family apart over something that's already been resolved. I said it hasn't been resolved. It's just been swept under the rug. Lindsay has apparently started therapy, which is good. But she's telling people she's in therapy for depression and anxiety, not for what she did to me. She's framing her therapy as general mental health support, rather than addressing the specific behaviors. My mom mentioned this casually and seemed to think it was a positive step. I said therapy was good, but Lindsay needed to address the identity theft specifically. My mom asked me to stop calling it identity theft. She said it was making Lindsay feel like a criminal. I said Lindsay should feel bad about what she did. My mom said I was being cruel. I said she was being enabling. We haven't talked since that conversation 2 days ago. I don't know where to go from here. I love my family, but I'm not willing to pretend this didn't happen or minimize how serious it was. At the same time, I miss having a normal relationship with my parents, and part of me wonders if I should just let it go for the sake of family peace. But every time I consider that, I think about someone using my photos, my name, my life to create a fake identity, and I get angry all over again. My therapist says I need to grieve the family dynamic I thought I had. She says my parents have shown me that they'll prioritize Lindsay's comfort over my legitimate boundaries. And that's information I need to accept, even if it hurts. She says I can't control how they respond, but I can control how I protect myself going forward. I've been more careful about what I post online now. I check my privacy settings constantly. I've even considered deleting my social media entirely, but I don't want to let this situation control my life that much. I just wish I could go back to posting photos without wondering if Lindsay is saving them for some future fake account. Some of my friends have suggested I pursue legal action. I've looked into it, and technically, what Lindsay did could be considered identity fraud or impersonation. But taking legal action against my own sister feels extreme and would definitely end any chance of repairing our relationship. I don't know if I want to go that far. I just want acknowledgement that what she did was wrong, and assurance that it won't happen again. The most frustrating part is that Lindsay seems to have moved on already. According to my mom, she's doing fine and has started a new job and is focusing on her future. Meanwhile, I'm still dealing with the fallout. I'm still getting messages from people who knew Fake Me. I'm still processing the violation. I'm still trying to understand how someone I shared a childhood with could do this to me. I keep thinking about all the years she was doing this. 4 years of maintaining a fake account, having conversations with people, building a fake life. That takes effort and consistency. It wasn't a one-time impulsive mistake. It was a sustained deception. Every day for 4 years, she made the choice to continue this lie. That's what I can't get past. And now I'm supposed to just forgive her and move on because family is family, because she's struggling with mental health. I have compassion for mental health struggles, but mental health issues don't excuse harmful behavior. They might explain it, but they don't make it okay. Lindsay needs help and accountability, not just sympathy and enablement. I don't know what the future holds for my relationship with my sister or my parents. Right now, I need distance and time to process everything. Maybe eventually we can rebuild some kind of relationship, but it will never be what it was before. The trust is broken, and I don't know if it can be repaired. For now, I'm focusing on my own healing and protecting my peace. That's all I can do. Story 6. My brother confessed on his deathbed that my daughter isn't biologically mine, and now my wife is begging me not to get a paternity test. I'm 41 years old, and my entire world just collapsed. My younger brother died 3 days ago from cancer. He was only 38. In his final hours, he told me something that has destroyed everything I thought I knew about my life. My brother Kyle and I were always close growing up. Only 3 years apart, we did everything together. We went to the same college, were in each other's weddings, and our families spent holidays together. When Kyle got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer 8 months ago, I was devastated. He was my best friend. I have a daughter named Emma, who just turned 13. She's the light of my life. My wife Jennifer and I had been trying to conceive for 2 years before Emma came along. When Jennifer finally got pregnant, we were ecstatic. Emma has been our only child. We tried for more kids, but it never happened again. So Emma became even more precious to us. Kyle never married and never had kids. He dated here and there, but nothing serious ever stuck. He always said he was married to his work. He was a software engineer and loved his job. When he got sick, it hit all of us hard. He was young and healthy, and suddenly, he was dying. I spent as much time as I could with Kyle during his final months. I'd visit him in the hospital, bring him things from home, sit with him during chemo. Jennifer would come too, and we'd bring Emma sometimes when Kyle felt up to it. He loved seeing Emma. He always had. He'd been the fun uncle who spoiled her with gifts and took her to amusement parks. 3 days ago, the doctor said Kyle didn't have much time left. Maybe hours. I rushed to the hospital. Jennifer stayed home with Emma because we didn't want her to see Kyle in that condition. I sat by his bed holding his hand. He was in and out of consciousness. The morphine made him confused sometimes. At one point, Kyle grabbed my hand tight and said he needed to tell me something. He said he'd been carrying this secret for 13 years and couldn't die without telling me the truth. My stomach dropped. I had no idea what he was about to say, but I knew it was going to be bad. Kyle told me that Emma isn't my biological daughter. He said that 13 years ago, he and Jennifer had slept together once. It was before Jennifer got pregnant with Emma. He said it was a terrible mistake, and they both regretted it immediately. They decided never to tell me, because it would destroy our family. Then, a few weeks later, Jennifer found out she was pregnant. Kyle said Jennifer had been sleeping with both of us during that time period, so there was no way to know for sure who the father was. But he and Jennifer had done the math, and there was a good chance Emma was his. They decided to keep it secret. Jennifer would raise Emma as mine, and Kyle would just be the uncle. He said he watched his daughter grow up from a distance, and it killed him but he thought it was the right thing to do. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I asked him if he was sure, if this wasn't just the drugs talking. He said he was sure. He said he was sorry, and he couldn't die without me knowing the truth. He said Emma deserved to know who her real father was. Then he slipped back into unconsciousness. He died 6 hours later, without waking up again. I sat in that hospital room in shock. My brother, my best friend, had slept with my wife. My wife had cheated on me. And my daughter, the child I'd raised for 13 years, might not be mine biologically. I didn't know which betrayal hurt more. I drove home in a daze. Jennifer knew something was wrong immediately. I told her Kyle had died. She hugged me and cried. Then I told her what Kyle had said. Her face went white. She started shaking her head, saying it wasn't true, that Kyle was confused from the medication. I asked her directly if she'd slept with Kyle 13 years ago. She broke down crying and admitted it was true. I felt physically sick. I asked her how she could do that to me, to us. She said it was one time, one terrible mistake. She said she and I had been fighting a lot during that period about our fertility struggles. She was stressed and emotional, and Kyle was there, and it just happened. She swore it meant nothing, and that she'd regretted it every day since. I asked her about Emma. She said she didn't know for sure who the father was. She said the timing could have been either of us. She said she'd pushed it out of her mind and chose to believe Emma was mine, because that's what she needed to believe to move forward. I asked if Kyle knew he might be the father when Emma was born. She nodded and said yes. They'd both known it was a possibility. I couldn't look at her. 13 years. 13 years of lying to me, watching me be a father to a child who might not even be mine. Every birthday, every school event, every bedtime story. And she knew there was a chance Emma wasn't my biological daughter. And Kyle knew too. They both lied to me for 13 years. Jennifer begged me not to do anything rash. She said Emma was my daughter in every way that mattered. She said biology didn't change the fact that I'd raised her and loved her. She said getting a paternity test would only hurt Emma and wouldn't change anything. I said it would change everything. I needed to know the truth. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept going to Emma's room and watching her sleep like I'd done when she was a baby. She looked like Jennifer with dark hair and green eyes. I'd always thought she had my nose and my smile, but now I was second-guessing everything. Did she look like Kyle? Had I been blind this whole time? The next day was Kyle's funeral. I had to stand up and give a eulogy for my brother, who'd betrayed me. I had to act normal in front of our whole family, while knowing this horrible secret. I looked at my parents, Kyle's parents too, and wondered if they'd ever know. They might have a granddaughter they didn't know about. I looked at Emma sitting in the front row crying for her uncle, not knowing he might have been her father. After the funeral, Jennifer and I had a huge fight. She kept saying we couldn't tell Emma, that it would destroy her. She said Emma had just lost her uncle and was grieving, and finding out he might have been her biological father would be too much. I said Emma deserved to know the truth. Jennifer said the truth would only hurt her. I told Jennifer I was getting a paternity test. She begged me not to. She said once we knew for sure, we couldn't unknow it. If Emma was Kyle's biological daughter, how would we move forward? How would I look at Emma and not see my brother's betrayal? Jennifer said she'd rather live with uncertainty than risk destroying our family. But I couldn't live with uncertainty. I needed to know. I ordered a paternity test online. Jennifer cried and said I was making a mistake, but she couldn't stop me. I collected the DNA samples when Emma wasn't looking. I sent them off to the lab. The results would take about a week. That week was torture. I couldn't act normal around Emma. Every time she called me Dad, I felt this pang of uncertainty. Every time I looked at her, I was searching for signs of Kyle. Jennifer and I were barely speaking. She was angry that I'd gone ahead with the test against her wishes. I was angry that she'd put me in this position by lying for 13 years. Emma noticed something was wrong. She asked if I was sad about Uncle Kyle. I said yes, which wasn't a lie. She hugged me and said she missed him too. She told me a story about how Kyle had taken her to get ice cream a few months ago, and they'd talked about life in school. She said Kyle had told her she could talk to him about anything. I wondered what else Kyle might have said to her. Had he been trying to build a relationship with her, knowing he was dying? The test results came back yesterday. I opened them alone in my car. I read the results 3 times to make sure I was understanding correctly. The test said there was a 99.9% probability that I was Emma's biological father. She was mine. Not Kyle's. Mine. I sat in my car and cried. Relief, anger, grief, all mixed together. Emma was my biological daughter. I hadn't lost that, but I'd still lost my brother and my trust in my wife. The betrayal was still real, even if the worst-case scenario hadn't come true. I went home and showed Jennifer the results. She cried too. She said she told me we shouldn't have done the test, that we could have just kept believing Emma was mine without needing proof. I said I needed proof. I needed to know for sure. She said now I knew, but what had it cost us? I'm still processing everything. Emma is biologically mine, which is an enormous relief. But that doesn't fix everything else. Jennifer still cheated on me 13 years ago with my own brother. They both lied to me for over a decade. Every time Kyle held Emma as a baby, every time he came to her birthday parties, every time he played with her at family gatherings, he was wondering if she was his daughter. And Jennifer was too. I keep thinking about all the times Kyle and Jennifer interacted over the years. Were there other times they slept together? Jennifer swears it was only once, but how can I trust her? She lied to me for 13 years about something huge. What else might she be lying about? Jennifer says she wants to go to counseling to work through this. She says she loves me and our family and doesn't want to lose everything over a mistake she made 13 years ago. She says she's been a faithful wife every day since then and has spent 13 years trying to make up for that one terrible choice. But I don't know if I can forgive this. It's not just that she cheated. It's that she cheated with my brother, the person I was closest to in the world besides her. And then they both lied to me for 13 years. They let me bond with Emma, love her, be her father, man, all while knowing there was a chance she wasn't mine. How do I get past that level of betrayal? Emma still doesn't know any of this. Jennifer is adamant that we can never tell her. She says Emma doesn't need to know that her mother cheated on her father with her uncle. She says it would only hurt Emma and serve no purpose. Part of me agrees. Emma is 13 and dealing with grief over losing her uncle. She doesn't need this added trauma. But part of me thinks Emma deserves to know the truth about her family. Not right now, maybe not for years, but eventually. She should know that her uncle and her mother made a terrible mistake, and that for a brief moment there was uncertainty about her paternity. She should know that despite all that, I'm her biological father, and I love her completely. My parents have noticed tension between Jennifer and me. My mom asked if we were okay. I said we were dealing with grief over Kyle, which is partially true. I'm grieving my brother, while also being furious at him. How do you mourn someone who betrayed you? How do you miss someone you're also angry at? I went to Kyle's apartment last week to start going through his things. My parents asked me to do it since it was too hard for them. I found a journal he'd kept during his cancer treatment. Against my better judgment, I read some of it. There were entries about Emma, about wondering if she was his daughter, about the guilt of lying to me, about wanting to tell me the truth but being afraid of destroying the family. In one entry from a few months ago, Kyle wrote that he'd decided to tell me the truth before he died. He said he couldn't take the secret to his grave. He said, I deserved to know, and Emma deserved to know. He wrote that he hoped I could forgive him someday, and that he was sorry for being a coward for 13 years. Reading his words made me angry all over again. He was sorry? He waited until he was literally dying to tell me? He watched me raise a child that he thought might be his for 13 years, and said nothing? And even in his apology, he was still thinking about himself and his guilt, not about what this would do to me. But then I found another entry where Kyle wrote about a day he'd spent with Emma at the zoo. He wrote about how smart and funny she was, how she reminded him of our mom, how he loved being her uncle, even if he might be more than that, how he wished things had been different, but was grateful he got to be part of her life, in some way. And I realized that Kyle had been suffering too. Not in the same way I'm suffering now, but he'd carried this secret, and it had hurt him. Jennifer found me reading the journal and asked what it said. I told her. She started crying again. She said she and Kyle had both been young and stupid, and made a terrible mistake that they'd regretted every day. She said she understood if I couldn't forgive her, but she hoped I'd at least try. She said our family was worth fighting for. I don't know if our family is worth fighting for anymore. I look at Jennifer and see a stranger. Someone who could betray me with my own brother and then lie about it for 13 years. Someone who could watch me bond with Emma while harboring this secret. Someone who is only sorry because she got caught. Because Kyle's deathbed confession forced the truth out. But then I look at Emma, and I remember that she's innocent in all of this. She's my daughter, biologically and in every other way. She didn't ask for any of this. She deserves a stable home and parents who love each other. Do I blow up her life because her mother made a terrible mistake 13 years ago? I've talked to a therapist about this. She said there's no right answer. She said I need to decide what I can live with and what I can't. Can I forgive Jennifer? Can I move past this betrayal? Can I look at her every day and not think about what she did? Can I rebuild trust that was shattered so completely? The therapist also said I need to grieve for the brother I thought I had. The relationship I thought we had was based partially on lies. Kyle wasn't just my brother and best friend. He was someone who betrayed me with my wife and lied about it for over a decade. I need to process that loss while also processing his death. Some days, I think I can work through this. Jennifer has been a good wife for 13 years since the affair. She's been a good mother to Emma. One mistake 13 years ago doesn't erase all of that. Maybe I can forgive her eventually. Maybe we can rebuild our marriage. Maybe our family can survive this. Other days I think I need to leave. How can I stay with someone who did this to me? How can I look at her and not see the betrayal? How can I trust her again? She's already proven she can lie to my face for 13 years. What else might she lie about in the future? And then there's the anger at Kyle. He's dead, so I can't confront him. I can't tell him how much he hurt me. I can't ask him why he did it, or how he justified it to himself. I can't get closure. He's just gone, and I'm left with this mess he created. Jennifer keeps saying we need to make a decision. Are we going to work on our marriage, or am I going to leave? She says she can't live in limbo with me being cold and distant. She says she's willing to do whatever it takes to earn back my trust, but I have to be willing to try. I told her I needed more time. This only came out a week ago. Kyle's only been dead for 3 days. I can't make life-altering decisions right now. She said she understood, but I could tell she's scared I'm going to leave. Maybe I am. I honestly don't know. Emma asked me yesterday why I seemed sad all the time. I told her I was missing Uncle Kyle. She said she missed him too and gave me a hug. I held my daughter and thought about how close I came to finding out she wasn't mine biologically. I thought about how that would have changed everything. I'm grateful for the test results, but I'm also angry that I needed to take a test in the first place. My parents called today to check on me. They're worried about how I'm handling Kyle's death. They have no idea what I'm really dealing with. They don't know their son slept with their daughter-in-law. They don't know there was uncertainty about their granddaughter's paternity. They're just mourning their youngest son and trying to be there for me. Part of me wants to tell them the truth. They should know what kind of person Kyle was, but that would devastate them and serve no real purpose except to make me feel less alone in my anger. So, I'm keeping this secret just like Jennifer and Kyle kept their secret. Another lie in a family built on lies. I'm trying to figure out what I want. Do I want to save my marriage? Do I want to forgive Jennifer? Do I want to keep our family intact for Emma's sake? Or do I want to start over, leave this betrayal behind, and build a new life? I don't have answers yet. What I know is that Emma is my daughter, and I love her completely. The paternity test confirmed what I already felt in my heart. She's mine. That bond can't be broken by secrets, or lies, or betrayals. Whatever happens with Jennifer, Emma will always be my daughter. What I also know is that my brother is dead, and I have complicated feelings about that. I miss him, and I'm angry at him, and I'm grieving him all at the same time. I lost my best friend, and found out he wasn't who I thought he was. That's a special kind of pain. And what I know about Jennifer is that I'm not ready to forgive her yet. Maybe someday. But right now, the betrayal is too fresh, and the hurt is too deep. She took away my ability to trust her. She made me question my entire relationship, and my daughter's paternity. That's not something you just get over. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. I'm being there for Emma. I'm going through the motions at work. I'm trying to process my grief and anger in therapy. And I'm trying to figure out what kind of future I want. Do I want one with Jennifer or without her? I honestly don't know yet. All I know is that nothing will ever be the same, and I'm still trying to figure out if that's something I can live with. Story 7. My daughter uninvited me from her wedding after I refused to pay for her fiancé's entire family to attend. Now half the family has sided with her, and I'm questioning everything. I'm 56 years old, and my relationship with my oldest daughter is completely broken. 3 months ago, she uninvited me from her wedding. The wedding happened last weekend, and I wasn't there. I still can't believe this is my reality. My daughter Melissa is 28, and has always been headstrong and dramatic. She's my oldest of 3 kids. Her younger sister is 25, and her brother is 22. I've always had a good relationship with all my kids, or at least I thought I did. Melissa got engaged last year to her boyfriend Carlos. They'd been dating for 2 years. Carlos is a nice enough guy, works in construction, seems to treat Melissa well. I was happy for them. My wife died 5 years ago from breast cancer, so it's just been me as the parent for big life events. I wanted to do right by Melissa for her wedding. When Melissa first got engaged, I told her I'd contribute $20,000 toward the wedding. That's a substantial amount of money, and it's what I could afford while still being fair to my other 2 kids when their times come. I have retirement to think about, and I can't drain my savings on one wedding. Melissa seemed happy with that amount initially. Her fiancé Carlos comes from a huge family. He's one of 7 kids, and his parents are still together. They're a close-knit family from Mexico, and many of his extended family still live there. When Melissa started planning the wedding, she got this idea that it would be amazing to have Carlos's whole family there, including aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents from Mexico. That's a lovely idea in theory. But Carlos's family doesn't have the money to travel to the United States for a wedding. Most of them have never left Mexico. Plane tickets, passports, travel documents, hotels. It all costs money they don't have. Melissa came to me and asked if I could help pay for his family to attend. I asked how many people we were talking about. She said probably around 30 people. 30 people from Mexico. I did some quick math in my head. Plane tickets alone would be at least $20,000, probably more. Add in hotels, ground transportation, meals, and helping with passport fees. We'd be looking at $40,000 to $50,000 total. I told Melissa I couldn't afford that. I'd already committed $20,000 to the wedding itself. I didn't have another $50,000 to bring Carlos's extended family from Mexico. She said Carlos's family couldn't afford it either, and it wasn't fair that his family wouldn't be there when mine would be. I said that was unfortunate, but it wasn't my responsibility to pay for his family's travel. Melissa got upset. She said I was being selfish, and that this was her wedding, the most important day of her life. She said Carlos was devastated that his family wouldn't be there and I could fix that if I just cared enough. I said I did care, but I had financial limits. I offered to increase my contribution to $25,000 to help with a few plane tickets for his immediate family, maybe his parents and siblings. She said that wasn't good enough. She said it would be insulting to only bring some family members and not others. It was all or nothing. I said then it would have to be nothing because I couldn't afford all. She started crying and said I was ruining her wedding. I said I was sorry, but I'd already been generous with my contribution and couldn't do more. That conversation was 4 months ago. Things got worse from there. Melissa stopped talking to me for a few weeks. Then she called and said she and Carlos had been discussing it, and they decided to downsize the wedding significantly so they could afford to bring his family themselves. Instead of the bigger wedding they'd planned, they'd do something smaller and use the savings for plane tickets. I said that was their choice to make. I asked if she still wanted the $25,000 I'd offered. She said yes, but she was disappointed in me. She said a good father would want to help make his daughter's wedding perfect and would find a way to make it work. I said a good daughter would appreciate what her father could give instead of demanding what he couldn't afford. We didn't talk much after that. I'd reach out occasionally and get short responses. My other 2 kids said Melissa was really hurt and felt like I didn't care about her happiness. I tried to explain my financial limitations, but they seemed to side with her. They said if I really wanted to, I could take out a loan or dip into retirement funds. I said I wasn't going to jeopardize my financial security for what was essentially a party. That didn't go over well. My son said weddings aren't just parties. They're important life events. I said I understood that, but I'd still offered a generous amount of money. He said it wasn't about the money. It was about showing Melissa I cared. I said I'd shown I cared by offering $25,000. That argument went nowhere. 2 months ago, Melissa called me. She said she and Carlos had thought about it, and they didn't want me at the wedding. She said my presence would just remind them that half of Carlos's family couldn't be there because I wouldn't help. She said it wouldn't feel right celebrating when I'd chosen money over her happiness. I was shocked. I asked if she was seriously uninviting her own father from her wedding. She said yes. She said maybe someday she'd forgive me, but right now she couldn't look at me without feeling hurt and disappointed. I tried to reason with her, but she'd made up her mind. She said I could still give her the money if I wanted, but I wasn't welcome at the ceremony or reception. I told her if she uninvited me, I wouldn't be giving her any money. If I wasn't good enough to attend my daughter's wedding, my money wasn't good enough either. She called me petty and hung up. We haven't spoken since. My younger daughter tried to mediate. She said Melissa was being unreasonable, but was hurt and lashing out. She said if I just agreed to help with the travel costs, even if it was a loan Melissa could pay back, everything would be fine. I said I wasn't giving Melissa a loan for $50,000 that would probably never be paid back. My daughter said I was being stubborn and prideful. I talked to my sister about it. She said I was in the right to set financial boundaries, but maybe I should consider that relationships matter more than money. She suggested I could take out a small loan, help with some of the costs, and make peace with Melissa. I said it wasn't about the money at that point. It was about Melissa thinking she could manipulate me by uninviting me to my own daughter's wedding. My sister said I was making this about ego. Maybe she was right. But I also felt like Melissa was the one making it about ego. She wanted a perfect wedding with everyone there, and when she couldn't have that, she decided to blame me. Why wasn't Carlos's family contributing? Why wasn't this their responsibility? Why was it all on me? I found out later that Carlos's parents had offered to contribute what they could, which was about $5,000. Melissa had told them not to worry about it, that she'd figure it out. So Carlos's parents got to be the good guys who offered while I was the villain for not offering enough. The wedding was last weekend. I wasn't there. My other 2 kids went. They tried to convince me to just show up, that Melissa wouldn't actually turn me away at the door. I said I wasn't going to crash my daughter's wedding like an uninvited guest. If she didn't want me there, I'd respect that boundary even if I didn't agree with it. The wedding happened without me. I saw photos on Facebook. It looked beautiful. Melissa looked happy. Carlos's immediate family was there, his parents and some siblings. Not the extended family from Mexico. So, in the end, the same people who would have been there if they'd stuck with the original plan were there anyway. All this drama for nothing. My son called me after the wedding. He said it was awkward without me there. People kept asking where I was. Melissa had apparently told some people I was sick and couldn't make it. Others, she told the truth to. My son said the family was divided. Some people thought I should have done more to help. Others thought Melissa was being a spoiled brat. My younger daughter sent me a long text. She said the wedding was beautiful, but sad. She said Melissa cried several times, and she knew it was because I wasn't there. She said Melissa was too proud to admit she'd made a mistake, but she clearly regretted uninviting me. My daughter said I should reach out and try to mend things. I don't know if I want to mend things. I'm hurt and angry. My daughter uninvited me from her wedding because I wouldn't bankrupt myself to pay for her fiancé's extended family to travel internationally. Then she framed me as the bad guy to our entire family. Half of them think I'm a cheapskate who ruined her wedding. The other half thinks she's unreasonable, but still thinks I should have tried harder to compromise. I've been doing a lot of thinking over the past few days. Maybe I could have handled this differently. Maybe I should have tried harder to find a middle ground. Maybe I should have taken out a small loan to help with some travel costs. Maybe I let my pride get in the way of being there for my daughter's big day. But I also think Melissa was wrong. She asked for something unreasonable. I offered what I could. And when it wasn't enough, she punished me by uninviting me. That's manipulation. That's emotional blackmail. If I gave in, what message would that send? That she can threaten me whenever she wants something and I'll cave? My sister called yesterday. She said Melissa is apparently very depressed since the wedding. She misses me and regrets how things went down but is too stubborn to admit it. My sister thinks I should be the bigger person and reach out first. I said, why do I always have to be the bigger person? Why can't Melissa apologize for uninviting her father from her wedding? My sister said because I'm the parent, and sometimes parents have to swallow their pride for their kids. She said Melissa is young and made a mistake, but I'm old enough to know better. I said Melissa is 28 years old, not a child. She's old enough to take responsibility for her choices. I talked to a therapist about this whole situation. She asked me what I wanted the outcome to be. Did I want to be right, or did I want a relationship with my daughter? I said I wanted both. She said sometimes we can't have both. Sometimes we have to choose between being right and being in relationship. That hit me hard. Am I prioritizing being right over having a relationship with Melissa? Maybe. But should I have to compromise my financial security and accept being manipulated just to have a relationship with my daughter? The therapist said those were questions only I could answer. I've been looking at the photos from the wedding online. There's a picture of Melissa with my other 2 kids, and you can see this empty space where I should have been. There's a father-daughter dance photo, but it's Carlos's dad dancing with his daughter, not me, with mine. I should have been there. That should have been my dance. But whose fault is it that I wasn't there? I offered a generous amount of money. I was willing to attend and celebrate. Melissa was the one who uninvited me. Why is everyone acting like this is my fault? My younger daughter came over yesterday. She said she understood my perspective, but she missed the old family dynamic. She said holidays are coming up and she wants us all together. She asked if I'd be willing to talk to Melissa if Melissa reached out. I said yes, but I wanted an apology first. My daughter said I might be waiting a long time for that apology. She said Melissa is stubborn like me, and neither of us wants to admit we were wrong. She said someone needs to break the stalemate, and since I'm the parent, it should be me. I said that's not how apologies work. The person who does something wrong should apologize, regardless of age or relationship. My son has been quieter about the whole thing. He told me privately that he thinks both Melissa and I were wrong. He said Melissa shouldn't have uninvited me, but I also could have been more flexible about the money. He said we're both too stubborn for our own good. He's probably right. Carlos's parents sent me a message through my son. They said they were sorry I couldn't attend the wedding, and they hoped our family could heal. They said they appreciated everything I'd done for Melissa over the years, and didn't want money to come between us. That was kind of them. At least, someone recognizes I'd been generous. I've been thinking about my late wife a lot. She was always better at navigating these emotional situations. She would have known what to say to Melissa. She would have known how to bridge this gap. I feel like I've failed as a parent by letting things get this bad. But I also think about what my wife would say to me. She'd probably tell me to stop being stubborn. She'd say Melissa was hurting and lashing out, and I needed to be the adult. She'd say missing my daughter's wedding was something I'd regret forever, and I shouldn't let pride keep me from fixing this. Maybe she'd be right. I am regretting missing the wedding. Every time I see a photo, I feel this pain in my chest. That was my daughter's wedding, and I wasn't there. I'll never get that moment back. No matter who was right or wrong, I can't undo my absence. At the same time, I'm angry that I'm the one feeling guilty when Melissa was the one who uninvited me. I offered money. I offered to attend. I offered my love and support. She threw it back in my face because it wasn't enough. Why am I supposed to feel bad about that? Some of my friends have weighed in on this situation. Most of them think Melissa was out of line. They say kids these days are entitled and expect their parents to fund everything. They say I was generous to offer anything at all, and Melissa should have been grateful. One friend who said his daughter had a courthouse wedding because that's what they could afford, and she didn't guilt him about it. But other friends have said I was too rigid. One friend said he took out a second mortgage to pay for his daughter's dream wedding and didn't regret it. He said you only get married once, and it's worth the investment. Another friend said family is more important than money, and I should have found a way to make it work. I don't know who's right anymore. I thought I was being reasonable by setting financial boundaries. But now I'm estranged from my daughter, and I missed her wedding. Was being reasonable worth this outcome? I'm not sure. Melissa posted a thank you message on Facebook yesterday, thanking everyone who came to the wedding and made it special. She didn't mention me at all, not even to say she missed me or wished things had been different. It was like I didn't exist. That hurt more than I expected. My younger daughter said Melissa is afraid to reach out because she thinks I hate her now. I don't hate her. I'm angry and hurt, but I don't hate her. She's my daughter. I changed her diapers and taught her to ride a bike and helped her with homework. I don't hate her. But I don't know how to bridge this gap either. The therapist suggested I write Melissa a letter. Not to send necessarily, but to get my feelings out. I've been working on it. It's hard to put into words everything I'm feeling. I'm hurt that she uninvited me. I'm angry that she manipulated me. I'm sad that I missed her wedding. I'm guilty that maybe I could have done more. I'm confused about how we got here. It's a lot of emotions tangled together. I keep coming back to the same question. What do I want? Do I want to be proven right? Do I want Melissa to admit she was wrong? Or do I want my daughter back? Because I'm starting to realize I can't have all of those things. If I want my daughter back, I might have to let go of needing her to apologize. I might have to reach out first, even though she was the one who uninvited me. I might have to swallow my pride and focus on moving forward instead of who was right about the past. But part of me rebels against that. Why should I have to compromise when I didn't do anything wrong? Why should I have to apologize or reach out first when I was the victim here? It doesn't seem fair. Life isn't fair, though. My wife dying at 51 wasn't fair. Melissa growing up without her mother for these important moments wasn't fair. Maybe me reaching out first isn't fair either, but maybe that's just what needs to happen for us to heal. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. Part of me wants to wait for Melissa to come to her senses and apologize. Part of me wants to reach out and start the healing process. Part of me is still too hurt to do either. What I know is that I missed my daughter's wedding, and that's something I'll carry forever. Whether it was my fault, or hers, or both of ours, the outcome is the same. I wasn't there, and I can't go back and change that. My son suggested we all get together for Thanksgiving and try to talk things through. I said I'd think about it. The idea of sitting across from Melissa at a dinner table after everything that's happened feels overwhelming. But maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need to sit in the discomfort and talk about it. I don't know what the future holds for my relationship with Melissa. I don't know if we'll ever get back to how things were before. The trust is broken. The hurt is deep. But she's still my daughter. And I'm still her father. That has to count for something. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. Some days I'm ready to reach out and make peace. Other days I'm too angry to even think about it. I'm trying to be patient with myself and figure out what the right move is. I just wish I knew what that was. Story 8. My mother-in-law moved in with us after my father-in-law died, and now she's completely taken over raising my kids. My husband refuses to set boundaries. I'm 33 years old, and I feel like a guest in my own home. My mother-in-law, Patricia, moved in with us 6 months ago, after my father-in-law passed away suddenly from a heart attack. What was supposed to be a temporary arrangement while she grieved has turned into a permanent nightmare that's destroying my marriage. My husband Mark and I have been married for 9 years. We have 3 kids, ages 7, 5, and 2. Before Patricia moved in, we had a good marriage and a happy household. Mark worked full-time as an accountant, and I worked part-time from home as a graphic designer, so I could be with the kids. We had our routines, our parenting style, our way of doing things. It wasn't perfect, but it worked for us. Mark's dad died very suddenly. He was only 62 and seemed healthy. One day he was fine. The next day he collapsed at work and died before the ambulance arrived. It was devastating for everyone, especially Patricia. They'd been married for 38 years. She was completely lost without him. Patricia had been a stay-at-home mom her whole life. She raised Mark and his sister, and had never worked outside the home. After the funeral, she seemed completely unable to function. She couldn't handle being alone in the house she'd shared with her husband. Mark's sister lives overseas and couldn't take her in, so Mark suggested Patricia stay with us for a while. I agreed, because what else could I do? His mother had just lost her husband. She needed support. I figured she'd stay a few weeks, maybe a month, while she processed her grief and figured out her next steps. I had no idea she'd still be here 6 months later with no plans to leave. The first few weeks were fine. Patricia was quiet and withdrawn, spending most of her time in the guest room. I brought her meals and tried to give her space to grieve. The kids were gentle with her, understanding that Grandma was sad. Mark was focused on handling his dad's estate and supporting his mom. It was hard, but manageable. Then Patricia started emerging from her grief, and that's when the problems began. She started inserting herself into everything related to the kids. At first, I thought she was just trying to distract herself from her grief by being helpful. She'd offer to make the kids breakfast while I was getting ready for work. She'd play with them in the afternoon. She'd help with bath time. It seemed sweet, but then it started getting intrusive. Patricia began criticizing how I did things. She said I wasn't feeding the kids healthy enough food. She didn't like that I let them have screen time. She thought their bedtime was too late. She'd make comments constantly about how things were done differently to us when Mark was growing up, implying her way was better. I tried to brush it off at first. She was grieving and probably needed to feel useful, but it kept escalating. She started overruling my parenting decisions right in front of me. I'd tell my 7-year-old son he couldn't have a snack before dinner, and Patricia would give him one anyway, saying he was a growing boy and needed to eat. I'd send my 5-year-old daughter to timeout for hitting her brother, and Patricia would let her out early, saying timeouts were too harsh. When I tried to talk to Mark about it, he said his mom was going through a hard time, and I needed to be patient. He said she was just trying to help, and I should appreciate having an extra set of hands. I said I didn't need help. I needed her to respect my authority as the mother. He said I was being territorial and selfish. Things got worse. Patricia started taking over the morning routine completely. She'd wake up early and get the kids dressed, fed, and ready for school before I even got out of bed. At first, Mark said this was great because it meant I could sleep in. I tried to explain that I didn't want to sleep in. I wanted to be the one getting my kids ready. He didn't understand why I was complaining about getting help. Patricia also took over making all the meals. She'd cook elaborate breakfasts, pack the kids' lunches with detailed notes, and have dinner on the table every night. My kids started asking why I didn't make fun lunches like Grandma. My 2-year-old started calling for Patricia instead of me when he woke up from his nap. I felt like I was being replaced in my own home. I tried talking to Patricia directly. I told her I appreciated her help, but I needed to maintain my role as the mother. She looked at me with this confused expression and said she was just doing what grandmothers do. She said when Mark was little, his grandmother had helped raise him, and it was normal for multiple generations to parent together. I said that was fine, as help, but this felt like a takeover. Patricia started crying. She said she'd lost her husband, and now I was making her feel unwelcome in her son's home. She said she was just trying to be useful, and I was being cruel. Mark came home to find his mother crying, and immediately took her side. He said I'd upset her for no reason, and I needed to apologize. I was furious. I'd tried to set a reasonable boundary, and somehow I was the villain. I refused to apologize. Mark and I had a huge fight. He said his mother had nowhere else to go, and had just lost the love of her life. I said I understood that, but she couldn't take over raising our children. He said she wasn't taking over, she was helping, and I was being paranoid and ungrateful. After that fight, things got even worse. Patricia stopped even pretending to defer to me. She'd make decisions about the kids without consulting me at all. She enrolled my 5-year-old in dance classes without asking me. She'd bought my 7-year-old a phone, which Mark and I had agreed he wasn't ready for. She rearranged the playroom because she didn't like how I had it organized. Every time I objected, Patricia would get tearful, and Mark would defend her. He'd say she was family and had every right to be involved with her grandchildren. I'd say involvement was different from taking over. He'd accuse me of being jealous of his mother's relationship with our kids. The word jealous made me see red, but he kept using it. My kids started going to Patricia for everything. When they got hurt, they wanted Grandma. When they needed help with homework, they asked Grandma. When they wanted a treat or permission to do something, they'd ask Grandma because they knew she'd say yes. I felt invisible in my own home. I tried to reclaim some authority. I told Patricia she needed to check with me before making any decisions about the kids. She agreed to my face, but then did whatever she wanted anyway. When I called her out, she'd say she forgot, or she thought it was fine, or she was just trying to help. Mark would tell me I was overreacting and creating drama. The breaking point came 3 weeks ago. I had specifically told my 7-year-old he couldn't go to a friend's birthday party because we had family plans that day. Patricia knew this. But while I was in my home office on a work call, she drove him to the party anyway. When I got off the call and found out, I lost it. I confronted Patricia and told her she had completely disregarded my parenting decision. She said the birthday boy was my son's best friend, and she couldn't let him miss it. I said that wasn't her call to make. She said she was his grandmother, and she had a right to take him to a party. I said no. She didn't. Not when I'd explicitly said no. Mark came home to another scene of his mother in tears. This time I didn't wait for him to attack me. I told him this had to stop. I said his mother had completely taken over raising our children, and I was done being undermined in my own home. I said Patricia needed to move out, or at minimum, we needed strict boundaries about her role with the kids. Mark was shocked. He said I couldn't kick out his grieving mother who had nowhere to go. I said I wasn't kicking her out. I was asking for boundaries. He said boundaries weren't necessary. We just needed to communicate better. I said I'd been trying to communicate for months and nobody was listening. We had the worst fight of our marriage. I said I felt like a stranger in my own home, like my role as mother had been taken away from me. Mark said I was being dramatic and selfish. He said his mother had lost everything, and all she had left was her family. I said, what about what I'd lost? I'd lost my marriage, my authority as a parent, my peace in my own home. Mark said if I was that unhappy, maybe I should be the one to leave. That stopped me cold. I asked if he was seriously suggesting I leave my own home and my kids. He backtracked and said that's not what he meant, but the damage was done. He'd made it clear that if it came down to choosing between his mother and me, he'd choose his mother. I've been sleeping in the guest room in the basement for 3 weeks. Patricia is in the nice guest room on the main floor. My kids barely notice I'm distant because Grandma is meeting all their needs. Mark acts like everything is normal, except we're not speaking unless necessary. I feel like my marriage is over and I don't know how to fix it. I talked to my own mother about this. She was horrified. She said Patricia was completely out of line, and Mark should be supporting his wife, not his mother. She offered to let me and the kids come stay with her. I told her I couldn't take the kids away from their home and their father, even though part of me wanted to. I also talked to a few friends who are mothers. They all understood exactly what I was describing. They said it sounded like Patricia was trying to relive raising her own children, and Mark was enabling it because he felt guilty about his dad dying. They said I needed to put my foot down hard, or this would never change. One friend suggested family therapy. I brought it up to Mark. He said we didn't need therapy. We just needed to learn to get along. I said we were beyond getting along. We needed professional help. He reluctantly agreed to go to one session. The therapy session was a disaster. The therapist asked Mark to describe the situation from his perspective. He said his mother had lost her husband and was living with us temporarily while she figured out her next steps. He said I was having trouble adjusting to having her in the house and was being inflexible about sharing parenting duties. When it was my turn, I explained everything. The constant undermining, the overruling of my decisions, the taking over of daily routines, all of it. The therapist asked Mark if he saw how this might be difficult for me. Mark said he understood it was an adjustment, but his mother wasn't doing anything wrong. She was just being a grandmother. The therapist asked Patricia directly if she realized she was undermining me. Patricia started crying and said she never meant to cause problems. She said she was just doing what came naturally. She said after her husband died, her grandchildren were all she had to live for, and she couldn't help wanting to be involved. The therapist tried to explain that there's a difference between being involved and taking over. She said grandparents play an important role, but parents need to be the primary decision makers. Patricia nodded, but I could tell she didn't really accept it. Mark looked uncomfortable but didn't say anything. After the session, Mark said he thought it went well. I asked how he could possibly think that. He said the therapist agreed his mom could be involved with the kids. I said the therapist said parents should be the primary decision makers, and I wasn't being treated as one. He said I was reading too much into it. We never went back to therapy. Mark said it was too expensive and we could work it out ourselves. I knew that meant nothing would change. Things have continued to deteriorate. Last week, my 5-year-old told me she wished I was more like Grandma, because Grandma was more fun. That broke my heart. I'm her mother, and she wishes I was different. I tried to explain to her that mommies have different jobs than grandmas, that I have to set rules and boundaries because I love her. She just shrugged and went to find Patricia. My 2-year-old has started calling Patricia Mama sometimes. She corrects him, but not very firmly. Mark thinks it's cute. I think it's devastating. That's my baby, and he's confused about who his mother is, because Patricia has taken over so much of the caregiving. I've started looking for apartments. I haven't told Mark yet, but I don't think I can keep living like this. I feel like a shell of myself. I cry almost every day. I'm anxious all the time. I've lost weight because I barely eat. This situation is destroying me, and nobody seems to care. My mother says I should take the kids and leave. She says Mark has made his choice, and I need to protect myself and my children. But the thought of leaving makes me sick. These are my kids. This is my home. Why should I have to leave because my mother-in-law won't respect boundaries and my husband won't support me? But I also don't know how much longer I can do this. Living in my own home feeling like an outsider is torture. Watching my kids bond with Patricia while pulling away from me is heartbreaking. Having a husband who doesn't support me or validate my feelings is lonely beyond words. I tried one more time to talk to Mark. I told him I was seriously considering leaving. He said I was being dramatic and threatening divorce over nothing. I said it wasn't nothing. It was everything. Our marriage, our family, my role as a mother, all of it was being destroyed, and he didn't seem to care. Mark said he did care, but he didn't know what I wanted him to do. I said I wanted him to set boundaries with his mother. I wanted him to support me as his wife and the mother of his children. I wanted him to tell Patricia she needed to step back and let me parent my kids. He said he couldn't do that to his grieving mother. I asked when her grief would stop being an excuse for bad behavior. It had been 6 months. Yes, losing a spouse is terrible, and the grief lasts a long time. But that doesn't mean she gets to take over my family with no consequences. Mark said I was being heartless. I said I was being realistic. We're at a complete impasse. Mark won't ask his mother to leave, or even to pull back. Patricia won't change her behavior because she doesn't think she's doing anything wrong. My kids are getting used to Grandma being the primary caregiver, and I'm falling apart trying to hold on to some semblance of my role in this family. I don't know what to do. If I leave, I'm abandoning my kids to be raised primarily by Patricia, which is exactly what I don't want. But if I stay, I'm accepting this miserable existence where I'm a secondary parent in my own home. Neither option is acceptable. My therapist, who I've been seeing individually, says I need to make a decision for my own mental health. She says staying in this situation is damaging me psychologically. She says my kids will pick up on my unhappiness, and that's not good for them either. She's right, but I still don't know what to do. Last night, I overheard Patricia talking to the kids. She was telling them a bedtime story about a grandmother who came to live with her grandchildren because their mother was too busy with work to take care of them properly. The grandmother taught them how to be good children, and they all lived happily ever after. I stood outside the door crying. That's how Patricia sees this situation. She thinks I'm neglectful, and she's saving my children. She's not trying to help me. She's trying to replace me. And Mark either doesn't see it or doesn't care. Either way, I'm losing my family and I don't know how to stop it. I've drafted a separation agreement, I haven't shown it to Mark yet. In it, I'm asking for primary custody with Patricia not to be involved in daily caregiving when the kids are with Mark. I know he'll never agree to that. He'll fight me for custody, and probably win because he can prove I moved out, and Patricia provides stable childcare. I feel trapped. Every path forward leads to me losing something crucial. If I stay, I lose myself. If I leave without the kids, I lose my children. If I fight for custody, I might lose anyway. And I'll definitely lose my marriage, and probably a lot of money on legal fees. Patricia's friend came to visit yesterday. I overheard them talking in the kitchen. Patricia was saying how hard it was living here, because I was so controlling and didn't appreciate her help. She said she missed her own home, but couldn't leave because her grandchildren needed her. Her friend said I sounded difficult, and Patricia was a saint for putting up with me. I wanted to burst in and defend myself, but what was the point? Patricia has convinced herself she's the victim here. She genuinely believes she's doing the right thing, and I'm the problem. Mark believes it too. Maybe I am the problem. Maybe I should be grateful for the help. Maybe I am being territorial and jealous like Mark says. But then I remember what it felt like before Patricia moved in. I remember being confident in my parenting. I remember my kids coming to me when they needed something. I remember my husband and I being a team. I remember feeling at home in my own house. All of that is gone now. I don't have an ending to this story because it's not over. I'm still living in the basement of my own home. Patricia is still running the household and raising my kids. Mark is still refusing to set boundaries. My kids are still pulling away from me. And I'm still trying to figure out what to do. All I know is that something has to change. I can't keep living like this. My mother-in-law has taken over my life, and my husband has let her. At some point, I have to decide what I'm willing to tolerate and what I'm willing to walk away from. I just wish I knew what the right answer was. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time and trying not to completely fall apart. I'm documenting everything in case I need it for custody proceedings. I'm saving money in a separate account Mark doesn't know about. I'm preparing for the possibility that my marriage is over. And I'm mourning the family life I thought I had, but apparently never really did. Story 9. I found out my parents have been sending money to my adult brother for years, while telling me they couldn't help with my medical bills. Now they expect me to help support him too. I'm 35 years old, and I just discovered that my parents have been financially supporting my 40-year-old brother to the tune of about $3,000 a month for the past 6 years. Meanwhile, 3 years ago when I was drowning in medical debt and begged them for help, they told me they were on a fixed income and couldn't afford to help me. I feel betrayed in a way I can't even describe. Let me give some background. I have an older brother named Derek who is 40. Growing up, Derek was always the troubled one. He struggled in school, got into drugs in high school, dropped out of college twice, and has never really held down a steady job for more than a year or two. He's charming and funny, and everyone loves him, but he's also completely irresponsible with money and life in general. I was the responsible one. I worked hard in school, got scholarships, graduated college with a degree in nursing, and have been working steadily since I was 22. I've always been financially independent and responsible. My parents used to praise me for being so self-sufficient and would compare Derek unfavorably to me, which I never liked but couldn't really control. 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease. The treatment was expensive, and my insurance didn't cover all of it. I had to take time off work, which meant less income. My medical bills piled up quickly. I was looking at about $40,000 in debt, and I was panicking about how to pay it. I went to my parents and asked if they could help me. I wasn't asking for the full amount, just maybe $10,000 to help me get through the worst of it. I told them I'd pay them back over time. My dad said they were living on Social Security and his pension and didn't have extra money to loan me. My mom said they wished they could help, but they were barely making ends meet themselves. I was disappointed, but I understood. They were in their late 60s and on a fixed income. I figured out a payment plan with the hospital and took on extra shifts when my health allowed. It was hard and stressful, but I managed. I paid off the debt over 3 years, making my last payment 4 months ago. I was proud of myself for handling it, even though it was incredibly difficult. Last month, I went to visit my parents for my dad's 70th birthday. Derek was there too. During dinner, Derek mentioned something about needing to replace his car. My dad immediately said they could probably help with a down payment. I was surprised, but figured maybe they'd come into some money, or something had changed with their finances. Later that evening, I was helping my mom in the kitchen. She was stressed about something, and let it slip that she didn't know how they were going to help Derek with the car, and still cover his rent for next month. I stopped washing dishes, and asked what she meant about covering his rent. She got this panicked look and said nothing. Never mind. I pressed her on it. She finally admitted that they'd been helping Derek with his rent and expenses for a while. I asked how long a while was. She didn't want to say. I kept asking. Finally, she admitted it had been about 6 years. They'd been sending Derek $3,000 a month for 6 years. I did the math in my head. That's $216,000. Over $200,000 to Derek, while they told me they couldn't spare $10,000 for my medical emergency. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My mom saw my face and immediately started making excuses. She said Derek needed more help than I did. She said I was stable and responsible, and they knew I'd figure it out. She said Derek would be homeless without their help. She said they couldn't let their son end up on the street. I asked why they lied to me. She said they didn't lie. They just didn't tell me everything. I said that was the same as lying. I left that night. I didn't even say goodbye to my dad or Derek. I drove home shaking with anger. My husband noticed I was upset, and I told him everything. He was furious on my behalf. He said my parents had essentially chosen Derek over me, and that was unforgivable. He said we should cut them off. I wasn't ready to go that far, but I was definitely hurt and angry. I didn't talk to my parents for 2 weeks. Finally, my dad called. He said my mom had told him what happened and he wanted to explain. I said I'd listen. He told me that Derek had hit rock bottom about 6 years ago. He'd lost his job, was about to be evicted, and came to them desperate. They'd offered to help temporarily, but temporary became permanent. Every time they tried to reduce the money or cut him off, Derek would have some crisis. He'd lose another job, or have car trouble, or some emergency. My dad said they felt trapped. They couldn't watch their son suffer even though they knew they were enabling him. It had started as $500 a month and gradually increased to $3,000 as Derek's expenses grew. I asked my dad why they didn't tell me, and he said they were ashamed. They knew it wasn't fair to help Derek so much while not helping me, but I didn't need help. I was doing fine on my own. I said I did need help 3 years ago, and they turned me away. He said they were already stretched thin with Derek, and genuinely didn't have an extra $10,000 at that time. I asked where they got $3,000 a month if they were on a fixed income. My dad admitted they'd taken out a reverse mortgage on their house. They were slowly draining their home equity to support Derek. I was stunned. They were bankrupting themselves for my irresponsible brother, while I'd struggled alone with medical debt. My dad said they knew it was wrong, but they didn't know what else to do. Derek was their son, and they couldn't abandon him. I said I was their daughter, and they'd abandoned me. My dad got quiet. He said he was sorry, and he knew they'd handled it badly. He asked me to understand that parents sometimes have to make impossible choices. I said the choice wasn't impossible. They chose to enable Derek's irresponsibility at the cost of their own financial security and their relationship with me. My dad said when I had kids, I'd understand. I said I hoped I'd never understand, choosing one child so clearly over another. We haven't talked since that call 2 weeks ago. My mom has been texting me trying to smooth things over. She keeps saying family is family, and I shouldn't let money come between us. I keep pointing out that they let money come between us when they chose to help Derek, but not me. She says it's not the same thing. I can't see how it's not. What's even worse is that I found out why Derek mentioned needing a new car. His current car is fine, but he wants a nicer one. My parents were going to help him buy a newer, nicer car, while they're draining their retirement to keep him afloat. It's not even for a necessity. It's because Derek wants an upgrade. I talked to my younger cousin, who is close with Derek. She told me things I didn't know. Apparently, Derek has been living quite comfortably on my parents' money. He has a nice apartment in an expensive area. He works part-time at a coffee shop, but doesn't really need to because my parents cover his bills. He goes out frequently, takes trips, buys expensive clothes. He's essentially living a lifestyle he can't afford because my parents are funding it. Meanwhile, I was working double shifts while sick to pay off medical debt. I was eating ramen and skipping social events because I couldn't afford them. I was stressed to the point of making my health condition worse, and my brother was living it up on my parents' dime. My cousins said everyone in the family knows about it. They all know my parents support Derek. Some of them think it's wrong, but nobody says anything because it's not their business. I asked if they, knew my parents refused to help me when I needed it. She said she didn't know about that, but it didn't surprise her because my parents always prioritized Derek. I feel humiliated that the whole family knows my parents have been bankrolling Derek's lifestyle, while I thought we were all just doing our own thing. I feel angry that nobody told me. I feel betrayed by my parents on a level I didn't know was possible. They didn't just refuse to help me. They lied about why, and hid the fact that they were pouring money into Derek. Last week, my dad called with a request. He said they were having trouble keeping up with Derek's expenses and asked if I could start contributing to help him out. Maybe $500 a month to take some pressure off them. I actually laughed. I asked if he was serious. He said family helps family, and Derek needed support. I told my dad absolutely not. I said I wouldn't give Derek a single dollar. I said they'd made their choice to support him and drain their retirement, and that was their problem, not mine. My dad said I was being selfish. I said he had no right to call me selfish after what they'd done. My dad said Derek was struggling, and if they couldn't keep helping him, he might end up homeless. I said maybe that would finally motivate Derek to get his life together. My dad said I was being cruel. I said I was being realistic. Derek was 40 years old and had never been forced to be responsible because they always bailed him out. We had a huge argument. My dad said I'd always been jealous of Derek. I said that was ridiculous. He said I'd always resented that Derek was more fun and likable than me. I said this had nothing to do with jealousy or resentment, and everything to do with them lying to me and treating their children unequally. My dad said they treated us according to our needs. Derek needed more help, so they helped him more. I was capable, so they let me be independent. I said that was just an excuse for playing favorites. I said they enabled Derek's irresponsibility and took advantage of my responsibility. My mom called me the next day, crying. She said I was tearing the family apart. She said they'd made mistakes, but they were trying their best. She begged me to help with Derek because they were at the end of their rope financially. I asked whose fault that was. She cried harder. I told my mom I loved her, but I couldn't be part of this anymore. I said enabling Derek was destroying them financially, and I wouldn't contribute to that. I said if they wanted a relationship with me, they needed to acknowledge what they'd done was wrong and stop lying to me. She said she couldn't promise they'd stop helping Derek. I said then we had nothing more to talk about. My husband fully supports my position. He says my parents made their choice, and now they're facing the consequences. He says they don't get to drain their savings for Derek, and then come to me for money. He says if I give in and help, I'm just enabling the whole dysfunctional system. My brother called me yesterday. He said he heard I refused to help him and wanted to know why I was being so difficult. I asked if he knew about my medical debt 3 years ago. He said yeah, he'd heard something about it. I asked if he knew our parents refused to help me. He said he didn't know the details, but I seemed to have handled it fine. I told Derek I handled it fine because I had no choice. I told him I worked myself sick paying off $40,000 in medical debt while he was living comfortably on our parents' money. He said that wasn't his fault. I said he was right. It was our parents' fault. But he was complicit in taking advantage of them. Derek said he didn't take advantage of anyone. He needed help, and they offered it. I said needed and wanted were different things. I said he needed housing and basic expenses, not a luxury apartment and a new car. He said I was judging his lifestyle. I said I was judging his willingness to bankrupt our elderly parents to maintain a lifestyle he couldn't afford. Derek said at least our parents loved him enough to help him. That comment hurt. I said they loved him enough to destroy their financial security for him, while leaving me to struggle alone. He said I was just bitter because I'd always been the boring, responsible one, and nobody paid attention to me. I hung up on him. I haven't slept well since all this came out. I keep replaying moments from the past 3 years. Times I visited my parents, and they seemed stressed about money. Times they said they couldn't afford to do something, all while they were sending $3,000 a month to Derek. I feel like my entire relationship with them was a lie. My husband suggested I write them a letter explaining how I feel. I tried, but I couldn't find the words. How do you explain to your parents that their favoritism has broken your heart? How do you tell them that their lies have destroyed your trust? How do you make them understand that treating your children unequally has consequences? Some of my friends think I should forgive my parents and move on. They say parents make mistakes and I shouldn't let this ruin our relationship. But this isn't just a mistake. This is 6 years of continuous lies and unequal treatment. This is choosing one child over another repeatedly. This is financial enabling that's destroying their retirement. This isn't something I can just forgive and forget. Other friends think I should cut my parents off completely. They say anyone who would treat their child like this doesn't deserve a relationship. I'm not ready to go that far. They're still my parents and I still love them. But I also can't pretend this didn't happen, or that it doesn't change things fundamentally. I've been thinking a lot about what happens next. My parents are going to run out of money eventually. The reverse mortgage will consume all their home equity. They'll be left with just Social Security and my dad's pension. What happens then? Will they expect me to support them? Will they expect me to support Derek too? Part of me thinks I should just wash my hands of the whole situation. Let my parents face the consequences of their choices. Let Derek figure out his own life. Focus on my own family and my own future. But another part of me can't stand the thought of my parents struggling in their old age, even if it's their own fault. I talked to a therapist about this. She said what my parents did was a form of parentification in reverse. They treated me as if I didn't need parenting or support because I was responsible, while infantilizing Derek by never letting him face consequences. She said this pattern is common in families, but that doesn't make it okay. The therapist said I need to decide what kind of relationship I want with my parents going forward. Do I want to maintain contact but with firm boundaries? Do I need space to process before reconnecting? Do I want to cut contact entirely? She said there's no wrong answer, but I need to do what's best for my mental health. Right now, I'm leaning toward minimal contact with firm boundaries. I'll see them at major holidays maybe, but I won't pretend everything is fine. I won't contribute financially to Derek under any circumstances. I won't listen to them complain about money problems they created, and I won't forget what they did, even if I eventually forgive it. As for Derek, I'm done. I have no interest in a relationship with someone who takes advantage of our parents and then insults me for calling it out. He's 40 years old, and it's time he grew up. If my parents want to keep enabling him until they have nothing left, that's their choice. But I won't be part of it. The hardest part is grieving the parents I thought I had. I thought they were honest people who treated their children fairly. I thought they were struggling financially, but making the best of it. I thought they cared about me and my well-being. Finding out none of that was true has shaken my understanding of my entire family. I keep wondering what else they've lied about. What other times did they choose Derek over me that I don't know about? How many family decisions were made with Derek's needs in mind, while mine were ignored? I'll probably never know the full extent of it. My husband asked me if I regret being the responsible one. Honestly, I don't. I'm proud of who I am and what I've accomplished. I'm proud that I handled my medical crisis without destroying my financial future. I'm proud that I don't need to rely on anyone else to support me. But I resent that my responsibility was taken advantage of. I resent that being responsible meant I was left to struggle alone. I resent that my parents looked at me handling things and decided that meant I didn't need support. I resent that Derek's irresponsibility was rewarded with hundreds of thousands of dollars, while my responsibility was rewarded with nothing. Moving forward, I'm focusing on my own family. My husband and I are planning for our future. We're saving money, investing wisely, and building the life we want. We're doing it without expecting help from anyone else. And when we have kids, we're going to treat them equally, regardless of their personalities or capabilities. I'm also building a life that doesn't revolve around my parents or my brother. I'm investing in friendships and hobbies and experiences that bring me joy. I'm not waiting for my parents to acknowledge what they did wrong or apologize in a meaningful way. I'm moving on. But the hurt is still there. Every day I think about those 3 years of struggling with medical debt. I think about the stress and the fear and the exhaustion. I think about how different it could have been if my parents had helped me even a little. And I think about Derek, living comfortably the whole time, on their dime. I don't know if I'll ever fully get over this. It's changed how I see my family and my place in it. I'm no longer the responsible daughter who makes her parents proud. I'm the daughter who wasn't worth helping. And that's something I'll carry with me forever, even if I eventually find a way to forgive them. For now, I'm just trying to process and heal. Some days I'm angry. Some days I'm sad. Some days I'm both. But every day, I'm learning to accept that my parents aren't who I thought they were, and my family isn't what I thought it was. And maybe that's enough for now. Story 10. My twin sister announced she's pregnant with her 3rd child at my baby shower, after years of me struggling with infertility. My family thinks I'm overreacting for being upset. I'm 31 years old, and I'm finally pregnant after 8 years of infertility treatments. This past Saturday was supposed to be my baby shower, a celebration of the miracle baby I'm carrying after countless failed rounds of IVF, 2 miscarriages, and more heartbreak than I can describe. Instead, my twin sister turned it into her own announcement party, and my family thinks I should be happy for her. My twin sister Claire and I used to be close. We did everything together growing up. We went to the same college, were each other's maids of honor, and got married within 6 months of each other. We always talked about having kids at the same time, and our children growing up together like we did. Then life took us in different directions. Claire got pregnant on her honeymoon. It was easy for her, unplanned even. She had her first baby when we were 26. I was happy for her, but also a little envious, because my husband and I had been trying for a year at that point, with no success. Claire got pregnant with her 2nd child when her first was only 18 months old. Again, it was unplanned. She actually complained about it, because she wasn't ready for another baby yet. I smiled and congratulated her while dying inside, because I'd just had my first miscarriage and would have given anything to be pregnant. Over the next few years, I went through hell trying to conceive. Multiple rounds of IVF, hormone treatments that made me crazy, procedures that were painful and invasive, a second miscarriage at 12 weeks that devastated me. Each failure felt like another piece of my heart being ripped out. My marriage was strained. My finances were drained. My body felt like it was betraying me. Claire tried to be supportive, but she didn't really understand. She'd make comments about how at least I could sleep through the night, or have freedom without kids. She'd complain about how hard motherhood was, while I desperately wanted the chance to experience it. She meant well, but it hurt every time. 6 months ago, I got pregnant again. I was terrified to hope. I didn't tell anyone except my husband until I made it past the first trimester. Every doctor's appointment where I heard the heartbeat, I cried with relief. Every week that passed was a victory. At 20 weeks, I finally felt safe enough to start telling people. My family was overjoyed. My mom cried happy tears. My dad hugged me for a solid 5 minutes. Claire seemed genuinely excited and offered to throw me a baby shower. I was touched. I thought this was her way of celebrating with me after watching me struggle for so long. I said yes. Planning the shower was fun. Claire asked me for guest lists and preferences. I told her I wanted something small and intimate, just close friends and family. She said she'd handle everything. I trusted her. She's my twin. She'd seen my pain up close. I thought she understood how much this meant to me. The shower was this past Saturday. About 40 people came, which was more than I expected, but still nice. The venue was beautiful. Claire had done an amazing job decorating. I was feeling emotional and grateful. This was finally happening. After 5 years of trying, I was going to be a mom. We did the typical shower things: games, gifts, cake. I was opening presents and feeling overwhelmed by everyone's generosity and love. Then Claire stood up and asked for everyone's attention. I thought she was going to make a toast or say something sweet. Instead, she announced that she was pregnant with her third child. The room erupted in excitement. Everyone was congratulating her. People were hugging her. Someone opened champagne for a toast. My baby shower had just become Claire's pregnancy announcement party. I sat there holding a onesie someone had just given me, watching everyone celebrate my sister, while I became invisible. I felt sick. This was supposed to be my day. After 5 years of struggling, after 2 miscarriages, after spending our savings on fertility treatments, I finally had a day to celebrate my pregnancy. And Claire had taken it and made it about herself. At my own baby shower, I must have looked upset because my mom came over and asked if I was okay. I said no, I wasn't okay. I said I couldn't believe Claire had just announced her pregnancy at my baby shower. My mom looked surprised and said Claire was just excited to share the news with family. I said she could have shared it literally any other day. My mom said I was being selfish. She said Claire was family and we should all be celebrating together. She said I should be happy that my children would have a cousin close in age. I said that wasn't the point. This was supposed to be my day, and Claire had stolen it. My mom said stolen was a strong word. She said Claire had worked hard to plan this shower and was allowed to share her own happy news. I said not at my baby shower she wasn't. My mom said I was being unreasonable and hormonal. I left. I grabbed my husband, and we left my own baby shower early. My husband was furious. He couldn't believe Claire had done that. He said it was incredibly selfish and tone-deaf. He said after everything we'd been through, I deserved one day that was just about us and our baby. I cried the whole drive home. Claire called me that night. She said she didn't understand why I was upset. She said she thought I'd be happy for her. I asked her how she could possibly think it was appropriate to announce her pregnancy at my baby shower. She said she was pregnant and excited and wanted to share it with the family who was already gathered. I told Claire she'd turned my baby shower into her announcement party. She said that wasn't her intention. She just thought it would be fun to share the news while everyone was together celebrating babies. I said celebrating my baby, not hers. She said I was being selfish and making everything about me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked Claire if she had any idea what the last 5 years had been like for me. She said of course she did. She'd been there. I said clearly she hadn't been paying attention if she thought announcing her third unplanned pregnancy at my baby shower was okay. Claire got defensive. She said she couldn't help that getting pregnant was easy for her. She said she was sorry I'd struggled, but that didn't mean she had to hide her own pregnancies. I said I wasn't asking her to hide it, just to not announce it at my baby shower. She said I was being dramatic. We haven't spoken since that call 4 days ago, but everyone else in my family has called. My mom called to say I owed Claire an apology. I asked for what? She said for making Claire feel bad about being pregnant. I said I didn't make her feel bad about being pregnant. I made her feel bad about announcing it at my baby shower. My dad called and tried to be diplomatic. He said both Claire and I could have handled it better. He said Claire maybe should have waited to announce, but I also shouldn't have left the shower. I said my leaving was a reaction to my day being hijacked. He said he understood, but family is family, and we need to work it out. My younger brother called and surprisingly sided with me. He said what Claire did was messed up, and everyone knew it, but nobody wanted to admit it. He said Claire has always been the center of attention and couldn't stand me having one day. I was relieved someone saw it from my perspective. My aunt called and said I was being petty. She said both pregnancies were blessings and should be celebrated together. I said fine. Then Claire should have announced at her own event, not mine. My aunt said I was splitting hairs and being difficult. I said I was setting boundaries. Claire's best friend called me. That was weird. She said Claire was really hurt by my reaction and crying a lot. She said Claire had always dreamed of having 3 kids and was so excited to finally be pregnant again. I said that was great, but it didn't give her the right to hijack my baby shower. Her friend said I was being unsupportive of my own twin sister. I asked the friend if she'd think it was appropriate to announce an engagement at someone else's wedding. She said that was different. I said it was exactly the same. Both are taking someone else's special day and making it about yourself. She said I was being ridiculous and hung up. My husband's family has been supportive. His mom called and said what Claire did was unbelievably rude. She said after everything we'd been through, I deserved to have my baby shower be about me. She offered to throw me another shower with just his side of the family, so I could have an untainted celebration. I might take her up on that. My therapist, who I'd been seeing during the fertility struggles, said what Claire did was a boundary violation. She said even if Claire didn't intend harm, the impact was harmful. She said my feelings were completely valid. She also said this pattern of Claire taking spotlight might be something deeper that we'd need to explore. I've been thinking about that. Looking back, there have been other times where Claire couldn't let me have my moment. When I got engaged, she announced at the dinner that she and her husband were trying for their second baby. When I got a promotion at work, she told everyone she was pregnant with her second at the same gathering. When I finally told the family about this pregnancy, she made comments about how exhausting pregnancy was, as if she needed to remind everyone she'd done it twice already. I never really noticed the pattern before. Or maybe I noticed, but made excuses for her because she's my twin. But now, I can't unsee it. Claire can't let me have anything without making it partly about her, and my family enables it by expecting me to just go along with it. Several friends who were at the shower have reached out. Most of them thought what Claire did was inappropriate. One friend said she assumed Claire had asked me first if it was okay to announce. When I said she hadn't, my friend was shocked. She said everyone there felt uncomfortable watching it happen, but didn't know what to say. Another friend said she left right after I did, because it felt wrong to stay and celebrate Claire after what she'd done. She said she'd had her own struggles with infertility, and knew how much that moment must have hurt. She offered to get coffee and let me vent. I took her up on it, and it helped to talk to someone who really understood. My husband wants me to cut Claire off completely. He says she's toxic and doesn't deserve to be in our lives. Part of me agrees. But she's my twin. We shared a womb. We've been connected our whole lives. Can I really just cut her out? But then I think about what she did, and how she's not even sorry. And I wonder if I can afford not to. I'm also worried about the future. Our babies are going to be born around the same time, based on her announcement. Everyone is already talking about them being close like Claire and I were. But I don't want my child to be Claire's child's backup, the way I've apparently been Claire's backup my whole life. I don't want my kid to always come second to Claire's kid, the way I've come second to Claire. Claire sent me a text yesterday. She said she missed me and wanted to talk. She said she didn't think what she did was wrong, but she was sorry I was upset. That's not an apology. That's her saying sorry. I'm upset, not sorry for what she did. I didn't respond. My mom is now saying I'm tearing the family apart. She's planning some kind of intervention where we all sit down and talk. I told her I'm not interested. She said I'm being stubborn. I said I'm being protective of my mental health and my baby. She said the stress isn't good for the baby. I said having my twin sister disrespect me isn't good for the baby either. I've been reading about narcissism and golden child dynamics. A lot of it sounds familiar. Claire has always been the fun one, the social one, the one everyone gravitates toward. I have been the responsible one, the steady one, the one who doesn't cause drama. Until now. Now, I'm causing drama by having boundaries, and everyone is uncomfortable. Part of me wonders if I am overreacting. Maybe announcing a pregnancy at a baby shower isn't that big of a deal. Maybe I should just be happy for Claire and move on. Maybe I'm letting pregnancy hormones make me emotional about something small. But then I remember the 5 years of struggling, the shots I gave myself every day during IVF, the procedures, the miscarriages, the grief, the money we spent that we'll never get back, the toll it took on my marriage, the depression, the feeling of being broken, and I think about finally having a day to celebrate getting pregnant, and Claire taking that day and making it hers. No, I'm not overreacting. What she did was cruel, whether she meant it that way or not. And the fact that she can't see why it was hurtful makes it worse. The fact that my family is defending her makes it even worse than that. I'm 33 weeks pregnant now. I'm having a boy. We've been preparing the nursery and taking birthing classes. My husband and I are excited and terrified. This pregnancy has been smooth so far, which feels like a miracle after everything. I'm trying to focus on that, and not on the drama with Claire. But it's hard when my phone keeps blowing up with family members telling me to forgive her. It's hard when I see on social media that Claire has announced her pregnancy there too, and everyone is congratulating her. It's hard when my mom posts a picture of Claire with some caption about being blessed with another grandbaby, with no mention of the grandchild I'm carrying. I feel invisible again. Even in my own pregnancy, Claire is getting more attention because it's new and exciting for her to be announcing. I'm 33 weeks along, and people are more excited about Claire's first trimester than my third. It's like my whole pregnancy has been overshadowed by hers, starting with my own baby shower. My husband says I need to accept that my family is dysfunctional, and Claire will always be the favorite. He says I can't change them, but I can control my reaction and my boundaries. He's right, but it's easier said than done when it's your twin sister and your whole family. I've decided I'm taking a break from all of them. I've muted the family group chat. I'm not responding to calls or texts about Claire. I'm focusing on my pregnancy, my husband, and preparing for our baby. If that makes me the bad guy in their eyes, so be it. At least I'll be a bad guy with boundaries. Claire is due about 2 months after me based on her announcement. I'm not planning to reach out when she has her baby. I'm not planning to buy gifts or visit the hospital. I know that will cause more family drama, but I can't keep setting myself on fire to keep Claire warm. She made her choice at my baby shower. Now, I'm making mine. My son will be here in about 7 weeks. I'm trying to focus on the joy of that. After 5 years of trying, I'm going to be a mom. That's incredible. That's a miracle. I won't let Claire or anyone else take that away from me. She took my baby shower, but she can't take my joy in becoming a mother. I'm also planning to have very clear boundaries once my baby is born. Claire won't be in the delivery room or visiting in the hospital. She can meet the baby eventually, but on my terms and my timeline. My family won't be happy about that, but they haven't been concerned about my happiness. So, I guess we're even. My therapist says I'm doing the right thing by protecting my peace. She says pregnancy is a vulnerable time, and I need to surround myself with people who support me, not people who take from me. She's helping me prepare for how to handle the family dynamics after the baby is born. I know this situation with Claire probably won't resolve itself. She doesn't think she did anything wrong, and my family supports her. I'll probably end up being the estranged twin who nobody understands, but I'd rather be estranged and mentally healthy than connected and constantly hurt. My husband asked me if I regret letting Claire plan the shower. Honestly, yes. I wish I'd seen this coming. I wish I'd known she'd use it as an opportunity to make herself the center of attention. But I didn't think my own twin would do that to me after watching me struggle for 5 years. That's on me for being naive, I guess. But it's also on her for being selfish. And it's on my family for excusing it. And it's on all of them for making me feel crazy, for being upset about something that was genuinely upsetting. I'm done questioning my own reality just because they can't acknowledge what Claire did was wrong. In 7 weeks, I'll be holding my son, my miracle baby, the child I fought for 5 years. Claire can have all the attention she wants with her 3rd easy pregnancy. I'll be too busy falling in love with my baby to care. And maybe that's the healthiest outcome I can hope for at this point. I just wish my baby shower could have been what it was supposed to be. A celebration of me finally getting to be a mom after years of heartbreak. Instead, it's a memory that's tainted by my sister's selfishness and my family's inability to see anything wrong with it. That's a sadness I'll probably carry for a long time, but I'm trying to make peace with it. Some things you can't change. Some people won't see your perspective no matter how clearly you explain it. Some families are dysfunctional in ways that can't be fixed. All I can do is protect myself and my baby and build the family I want with my husband. Maybe that has to be enough.